Chapter 1559. The Eastern Ridge's herb garden was extremely large. However, just as Xiang Yang said, most of it was planted with flame dawn grass. Only the shady side of the mountain peak far away from the cave was planted with other spiritual herbs. However, even if it was only a small portion, it was still many times larger than Shang Huaming's herb garden. Inside, there were many ordinary and unusual spirit grasses of various colors. They were all planted in different areas, filling up one side of the mountain peak. However, with Xiao Hua's many years of experience, these spiritual herbs were all half dead and far from having any value in refining pills. He was afraid that every time the disciples came to the Eastern Ridge to pick flame dawn grass, they would never look at it. What a pity! Xiao Hua's eyes lit up as he looked at the spiritual herbs. He had seen these spiritual herbs in the Codex of Herbs before. Although Ling Zhongyu from the spiritual grass sect gave him many seeds, those seeds were after all ordinary. Compared to the rare spiritual herbs here, they were not enough. Damn it! After a few days, this young master will familiarize himself with this herb garden. First, this young master will transplant half of the spiritual herbs that this young master does not have in his space. Xiao Hua swallowed his saliva and thought to himself, that's right, with the increase in my cultivation, the space has become a lot bigger. And, I'm afraid that I can fit the entire Eastern Ridge into it. These spiritual herbs are still far from enough. If I have time, I have to go to the Qiqiao Pavilion and ask for all the spiritual herbs from the Imperial Thunder sect. Whether the Eastern Ridge can be planted or not, let's not talk about it first. Let's fill up this young master's space first. In these 2 years, Xiao Hua's space had increased exponentially along with his cultivation. Just as Xiao Hua said, it was much larger than the mountain range of the Eastern Ridge. However, no matter how big the space was, when Xiao Hua's mind entered it, everything in the space would be reflected in his mind. It was as if the space was his mind. In addition to the fact that his mind could take out anything in the space, Xiao Hua's mind was like the master of the space. Of course, it was only like. It was more like a mirror-like reflection. There was no feeling of control at all. As for why this was the case, with Xiao Hua's cultivation, he didn't think too much about it. He only felt that this space was much more convenient to use than a storage bag. There was also the growth of the spirit grasses in the space. Naturally, following the growth of Xiao Hua's cultivation, the illumination of the spirit light in tracing light became stronger. The growth of the spirit grasses was also several times faster than before. With this kind of growth speed, Xiao Hua could easily foresee that not to mention 1,000-year-old spirit grasses, even 10,000-year-old spirit grasses would be everywhere in the space in the near future. Xiao Hua first transplanted some spirit grasses, then flew to other places. It took him nearly a day to roughly look through the medicine garden in the Eastern Ridge. When he returned to his immortal's cave at night, Xiao Hua carefully took out the warning talisman and placed it at the entrance of his immortal's cave. Although the Eastern Ridge was protected by an extremely powerful array, Xiao Hua still didn't know what dangers lay within. Then, Xiao Hua sat on the jade chair in the immortal's cave and looked around. At this time, looking at the entire immortal's cave again, he felt a sense of familiarity. After all, in the next few years, this would be the place where Xiao Hua cultivated. After he left Shang Huaming, it was only today that he was finally able to have a cave abode of his own. He was finally able to calm his heart and cultivate. That's right, I was in a daze looking at the spirit grasses today and forgot to take a look at the alchemy room. Xiao Hua suddenly remembered that the alchemy room was the most important place for Xiao Hua's cultivation. However, because he had been refining the fire essence flame crystal for the past 2 years, and there were still some in his meridians, this matter was thrown to the back of his mind. Let's wait for tomorrow. After all, after using the fire essence flame crystal, I'll have to rely on medicinal pills. There are so many spirit grasses here, and there's also the alchemy room. There's no reason to waste them. Xiao Hua thought and clapped his hands. The exquisite Dian Pagoda, which was known as the most precious treasure of the Buddhist sect, was taken out from the space. Buddhist sect? What kind of cultivation sect is this? Why haven't I heard of it? It's even a most precious treasure. How could it fall into their hands? I'm afraid that guy is just bluffing. At this time, Xiaohua's horizons had also widened. Looking at two late-stage Foundation establishment realm cultivators, he didn't feel that they were very powerful. Holding the small pagoda in his hand, Xiaohua carefully examined it. This small pagoda looked very ordinary and didn't seem to be any different from what he usually saw. There were even some parts that were damaged and looked very broken. It was far from the appearance of the magic tools and treasures that Xiaohua had seen before. TSK, what kind of Buddhist sect's most precious treasure is this? It can't even compare to the magic tool of the spirit husbandry sect. Xiaohua smacked his lips and gave an extremely low evaluation of the exquisite pagoda. Of course, how could he easily give up on something that even late-stage Foundation establishment realm cultivators would have to risk their lives for? When he looked carefully, the exquisite pagoda was divided into 9 layers. Between each layer, there were 4 thin grooves. From top to bottom, there were a total of 36 grooves. Among these grooves, some were filled with things while some were empty. Xiaohua counted carefully. Aside from the top 2 floors which were empty, the bottom 7 floors were all filled with things. However, at the same time, every floor had 1 or 2 empty grooves. There were a total of 17 grooves that had things in them. It was exactly the same as what Kan Mingwei said. What are the things in these grooves? It seems like, even the late-stage Foundation establishment realm Kan Mingwei doesn't know. Xiaohua naturally couldn't see anything from the outside. He also released his perception. As expected, his perception didn't see anything abnormal. It was one with the pagoda and his perception couldn't penetrate it. Xiaohua turned the exquisite pagoda a few times. Isn't there a protrusion here? On the other side of the exquisite pagoda, Xiaohua saw that there was a protrusion on the other side of the groove. It should be just enough for 2 fingers to clamp it. Sure enough, Xiaohua stretched out his thumb and index finger and just happened to clamp it. Could it be that I can pull it out? Xiaohua thought very naturally. However, he didn't have much hope. This exquisite pagoda had been with Kan Mingwei for dozens of years and he hadn't been able to see through it. There was no reason for him to be able to find the profundity just as it was in his hands. Let's give it a try. Xiaohua used his 2 fingers to pull it out. As expected, the protrusion didn't move at all. It seemed to be one with the small pagoda. Forget it, Xiaohua was still thinking about those green seal scripts and wanted to give up, but, just as he loosened his fingers, he suddenly had an epiphany and suddenly thought of something. Damn it, that damned Kan Mingwei must have also tried this in the past, but the problem is, why didn't he figure it out? There must be something wrong with these protrusions. The more obvious the place, the more likely it is to be the crux of the problem. If this young master can't find this protrusion strange, then I don't need to think about other things. Xiaohua's eyes slightly shrank. He stared straight at the protrusion for the time it took to eat a meal. Ha ha ha, Xiaohua suddenly laughed loudly. He used 2 fingers to clamp the protrusion again and said with a smile, "How am I stupid? If others can't take it out, then it's because they don't have enough strength. What do I have? Strength." As he said this, he took a deep breath and increased the strength of his 2 fingers. Sure enough, as Xiaohua used 60% of his strength, the protrusion really moved. There's hope. Xiaohua was overjoyed. He gradually increased the strength of his fingers and the protrusion was actually pulled out by him little by little. However, even when Xiaohua used all the strength in his body, the protrusion was still not completely pulled out. It was only pulled out less than 3 inches. How much strength did Xiaohua have now? If he couldn't pull it out, then Kan Mingwei definitely couldn't pull it out either. Although it was only 3 inches, it was already enough. As the 3 inches protrusion was gradually revealed, the smile on Xiaohua's face also gradually became wider. In the end, he really didn't have any strength left and loosened his hand. The protrusion immediately retracted. Xiaohua's face didn't seem to be dispirited. Ha ha ha, this young master said it. Casually collecting some strange things will definitely be beneficial. Xiaohua waved his hand and took out an item from the space. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think it is? It is a piece of gold leaf. Xiaohua didn't know where to use the gold leaf. Needless to say, what Xiaohua pulled out from the protrusion of the exquisite pagoda was a piece of gold leaf. Where should I put it? Xiaohua held the gold leaf in his hand and looked it up and down. After all, there were 19 empty grooves. If he put it in the wrong place, he was afraid that there would be a mistake. Who would have thought that when the gold leaf in Xiaohua's hand was just close to the exquisite pagoda, an extremely faint brilliance suddenly emitted from a groove in the exquisite pagoda. That brilliance was white but not white. It was somewhat viscous. When the brilliance shined on the gold leaf, the entire edge of the gold leaf gradually melted. In the blink of an eye, it turned into the appearance of a leaf. This leaf was golden and the veined patterns on it were milky white. Seeing this scene, Xiaohua very naturally placed the leaf into the groove. Sure enough, when the leaf entered the groove, the brilliance retracted back into the exquisite pagoda. On the other side, a protrusion also appeared. Very good. Xiaohua clapped his hands and laughed. Immediately after, Xiaohua placed the remaining 7 gold leaves into the pagoda. After he placed the last gold leaf into the pagoda, the entire pagoda was immediately enveloped by a layer of milky white brilliance. Bursts of golden brilliance blossomed from the bottom 4 floors, and within the milky white brilliance, there were countless tiny golden lotuses that gushed out from the space. Those countless golden lotuses blossomed one after another, and an indescribable fragrance filled the entire cave. Xiaohua was just surprised when bursts of Sanskrit chants came out from the exquisite pagoda. The chants resounded in Xiaohua's ears, and his heart felt as if it was filled with the entire world. Tranquility, a piece of tranquility. Peace, a piece of tranquility. When the Sanskrit chants entered his ears, Xiaohua's heart was incomparably tranquil and serene. An experience that he had never experienced before welled up in his heart. Very naturally, Xiaohua sat down cross-legged with the exquisite pagoda still in his hands. His eyes focused on his nose focused on his heart, and his mind entered the space. On one hand, he comprehended the heavenly Tao, and on the other, he silently operated his mental cultivation method. Although the Sanskrit chants could not be heard, Xiaohua's heart seemed to be able to feel the indistinct rhythm of the Sanskrit chants. Chapter 1560. This Sanskrit chanting was indeed effective. It was like a kind of rain that nourished Xiaohua's meridians. Xiaohua's meridians were originally operating the heavenly law's embodiment technique to refine the remaining flames of the fire essence flame crystal. Although this Sanskrit chanting could not increase Xiaohua's refining speed, the amount of flames that Xiaohua could refine had greatly increased. Day after day, night after night, Xiaohua still held the exquisite pagoda in his hand as he sat cross-legged with a solemn appearance. The exquisite pagoda in Xiaohua's hand was still enveloped in Buddhist light. In the golden light of the lower 4 floors, the golden lotus slowly rotated along with the Sanskrit chanting. It actually escaped from the golden light and flew into the space between Xiaohua's eyebrows. Although Xiaohua did not move at all, in the space between his eyebrows, as the golden lotus penetrated, a swastika word actually appeared. This swastika word was faint at first, then gradually became clear. However, this swastika word was not complete. Apart from the bottom and right strokes that were complete, the 3rd stroke was not complete, and the 4th stroke was not complete at all. The entire swastika word only appeared faintly at the beginning when it first appeared. When the golden lotus of the exquisite pagoda had completely gathered together to form the swastika word, an entire 2 months had passed. During this period of time, Xiaohua's body did not move at all, but there was a mysterious fluctuation around his body. The foreign starlight had always been tightly wrapped around him. In his meridians, the remaining flames of the fire essence flame crystal had also been completely refined. Of course, the heavenly law's embodiment technique was still operating, but the amount of true qi that could be refined was already very little. Xiaohua's cultivation was only fixed at the middle of the 11th level of qi refining. The golden lotus of the exquisite pagoda disappeared, and the golden light of the lower 4 floors of the exquisite pagoda also gradually disappeared. Immediately after, the Sanskrit chanting also stopped. The exquisite pagoda returned to its previous ordinary appearance. It moved, Xiaohua's eyelids finally moved slightly, as if with a kind of extreme reluctance. Xiaohua opened his eyes. In an instant, the reverse light in the space began to rotate again, and the foreign starlight suddenly disappeared. Sigh, Xiaohua's eyes moved slightly, looking at the exquisite pagoda in his hand. There was some eagerness in his eyes as he sighed, this thing is indeed a treasure. But with just a voice, I was brought into a mysterious realm. In this realm, it seems to be filled with tranquility, yet it also seems to be filled with benevolence. It is the exact opposite of I's fire elemental cultivation technique. The heavenly law's embodiment technique and the voice both reinforce and counteract each other. In just 60 days and nights, I was able to push I from the middle stage of the 10th realm to the middle stage of the 11th realm. It is truly marvelous. This Buddhist sect. Which true cultivation sect is it? Judging from the effects of the exquisite derivation pagoda, it wouldn't be any worse than the imperial lightning sect. Their ruins. Could it be that their descendants have been wiped out? Just as he was thinking, the medallion in Xiaohua's bag of holding vibrated. Xiaohua slapped his hand, and the medallion for the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden appeared. Huh! Someone actually sent a message. Xiaohua was slightly taken aback. Immediately after, he pointed his hand, and the token flashed with a faint radiance. 4 crimson-red messaging talismans flew in from outside the abode. Wow, there are actually 4 of them. Xiaohua placed the medallion to the side and put the exquisite derivation pagoda into his space. He was just about to reach out for the messaging talismans. At this moment, the swastika symbol between Xiaohua's eyebrows slightly rotated. Xiaohua's mind was suddenly pulled into a strange place filled with Buddhist light. In this place, apart from an indomitable Buddha statue, there was nothing else. What is this thing? Xiaohua felt that this Buddha statue was like the entire world, but also like grass. Although the entire Buddha statue wasn't particularly clear, the Buddha statue had one hand pointing to the heavens and the other pointing to the earth. Its 2 eyes seemed to contain both the heavens and the earth, but also seemed to contain an aura of boundless benevolence. It was very deeply imprinted in Xiaohua's mind. Just as Xiaohua was bewildered, a flower suddenly appeared in the motionless Buddha statue's hand. That flower was like a dream, flowing with light and overflowing with color. The Buddha statue's benevolent expression also appeared along with the flower's appearance. It faintly smiled, and the entire space was suddenly filled with heavenly flowers. Xiaohua's mind was suddenly filled with many things. It was also in an instant that Xiaohua's eyes lit up again. His mind returned to his body, and his finger was still about to pinch open the messaging talisman. And the swastika symbol between his eyebrows gradually disappeared, and disappeared into his skin. Good heavens, Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. What is this thing? Immediately, Xiaohua didn't accept the messaging talisman, and closed his eyes to ponder. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Xiaohua opened his eyes. His face had an indescribable expression, but his brows were slightly wrinkled. Exquisite Leaf Sutra. This is the Buddhist sect's supreme method of cultivating relics. The sariras cultivated by other dharmic formulations were either round balls or multicolored. Only the relic cultivated by this exquisite leaf sutra is the image of Buddha. Furthermore, it's golden in color. It's called the Buddha's relic. But, What is this relic? Who is Buddha? Xiao Hua was somewhat at a loss. The strangest thing is that this Buddha's relic is formed in the Naiwan Palace. Isn't that where the primordial spirit is? Is it the place where the divine sense is born? Right, speaking of the Naiwan Palace, my Naiwan Palace doesn't seem to have one. Without the Naiwan Palace, how can I cultivate the primordial spirit? How can my divine sense come out? Moreover, this so-called supreme mental cultivation method of the Buddhist sect, why is it somewhat similar to the nameless mnemonic chant that I cultivated in the past? I used the nameless mnemonic chant to cultivate a different perception from divine sense. Could it be that nameless mnemonic chant is also some mental cultivation method of the Buddhist sect? Thinking of this, Xiao Hua's heart jumped. No, if it's like the exquisite Leaf Sutra said, this divine ability is Buddhist awareness. Hearing the name, it's different from divine sense. Could it be that I cultivated it wrongly? Forget it, forget it, forget it. Xiao Hua immediately shook his head. In any case, this exquisite Leaf Sutra only has the first 4 layers, the last 5 layers are all incomplete. Maybe in the future, I will wait until I get the last 11 gold leaves from this exquisite derivation pagoda. Hee, this Buddhist sect's flower-picking smile is quite interesting. There are no words at all, but with a smile, the cultivation method will be transmitted to I. It's really mysterious. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua squeezed his hand and the foremost messaging talisman shattered. Xiang Yang's voice came, little junior brother, you've been in the Eastern Ridge for 30 days. I came to see you on Master's orders. Open the formation. Hee, Master and eldest senior brother really care about me. Xiao Hua smiled and crushed the other messaging talisman. Xiao Hua, I am Jinming. I came to pick the flame dawn grass on the orders of the Thunder Flash Hall's deacon. Please open the formation. Xiao Hua frowned slightly and thought, it's already time to pick the flame dawn grass. Eldest senior brother only said to pick it every year, but he didn't say when. Damn, I don't know when this messaging talisman came. I'm afraid it will delay the matters of the Thunder Flash Hall. The third messaging talisman was still Xiang Yang's voice, but this time it was a bit anxious. Little junior brother, this is the second time I've come. It's already been 50 days, could it be that you're in seclusion? AI, you've only just entered the sect. You don't even have medicinal pills and other things yet. Why are you in such a hurry to enter seclusion? If you come out, send me a messaging talisman. I'll wait for you for 100 days. If there's no reply, I'll go to the Thunder Flash Hall and ask the deacon to open the restriction. Xiao Hua's heart felt warm. He reached out and took out the messaging talisman that Xiang Yang left behind. He said a few words into the messaging talisman, then flung his hand. The messaging talisman immediately turned into lightning and flew out. The fourth messaging talisman shocked Xiao Hua, but it was also within his expectations. It was Xue Xue. Xiao Hua, where are you now? I'm currently working as an odd job worker in the Thunder Flash Hall's pill refining room. I originally wanted to look for you, but Master said that before Foundation establishment, the disciples of the Thunder Flash Hall and the Thunder Flash Hall can't casually meet. She said she was afraid of damaging her mental state. Master is very good to me. She said that my physique is suitable for cultivating her senior's cultivation technique. However, because I can only receive her guidance after Foundation establishment, I can only stay in the Thunder Flash Hall for the time being. However, Master said that she's a core formation cultivator, so her teaching of disciples is a bit special. Perhaps I can go to the Thunder Flash Hall soon. Of course, Master won't directly instruct me. Some of my Foundation establishment senior martial sisters will instruct me. And, you have to speed up your cultivation. Don't let me catch up to you. Hee, Master said that if everything goes smoothly, I should be able to reach Foundation establishment within 20 years. What about you? Me? When Xiao Hua saw that the messaging talisman was silent, he curled his lips and muttered to himself, you're amazing just because you reached Foundation establishment in 20 years. I'm afraid I'll be able to reach foundation establishment next year. However, when he thought about it, Shui Shui was only at the 7th layer of qi refining. Ordinary cultivators in the Thunder Flash sect would need 24 to 25 years to reach the peak of the 12th layer of qi refining without any obstacles. Shui Shui using 20 years to reach foundation establishment could be considered good. After thinking for a moment, Xiao Hua also took out a messaging talisman and whispered a few words before sending it out. He finally got the chance to cultivate with great difficulty, so he didn't want to be disturbed by anything. Therefore, he didn't say where he was and only said that he was cultivating diligently, hoping to reach foundation establishment as soon as possible. Presumably, Shui Shui would also understand his thoughts and wouldn't come looking for him. After that, Xiao Hua didn't dare to tarry. He picked up the Eastern Ridge Herb Gardens token and carefully examined it. He flew out of the cave and found some jade boxes in a nearby herb garden. He then hurriedly plucked a sufficient amount of flame dawn grass and used the flight technique to rush to Thunderclap Palace. Xiao Hua's flight technique was extremely fast. From the Eastern Ridge to the Thunder Flash Hall, there weren't any eyesores, so Xiao Hua didn't have to worry. He only used 6 hours to reach the Thunder Flash Hall. When he saw the disciple on duty at the Thunder Flash Hall, Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Senior brother, which one of you is Senior Brother Zhenming?" The disciple on duty looked up and down at Xiao Hua and asked indifferently, "Why are you looking for Junior Brother Zhenming?" "Oh, this disciple is doing odd jobs at the Eastern Ridge Medicine Garden." Last time, without waiting for Xiao Hua to finish speaking, the disciple on duty smiled and said, "Oh, I understand. So you're that odd job worker at the Eastern Ridge Medicine Garden. What's wrong?" Xiao Hua secretly cursed in his heart and hurriedly asked, "Could it be, this disciple has delayed the sex alchemy?" Chapter 1561. You've got guts. You've only been in my Thunder Shock Palace for 2 months and you dare to slack off. Every year, Junior Brother Zhenming goes to the Eastern Ridge Medicinal Garden to pick flame dawn grass and has never made any mistakes. Yet this year, when Grandmaster Zhenhan opened the cauldron to refine the clear flower pill, you shut down the formation so that Zhenming can't pick the spirit herbs. Tell me, how can Zhenming not be punished? "Io," Xiao Hua cried out in shock. "This is my fault, how can I let Senior Brother Zhenming suffer? Please report to the deacon, Senior Brother is willing to accept the punishment." The disciple on duty looked at Xiao Hua and nodded. "Fortunately, you're also a responsible man. Let's go, follow I in." As the disciple on duty walked into Thunder Shock Hall, Xiao Hua asked tentatively, "Senior Brother, I have a question, but I don't know if I should ask." The disciple on duty glanced at him and sneered. "If you should ask, ask. If you shouldn't ask, don't ask." He, Xiao Hua smiled apologetically. "I just want to ask, although the Eastern Ridge Medicinal Garden is protected by a formation, but that formation was also set up by the sect's elders. Why don't we ask the elders to break the formation? Or perhaps, the Eastern Ridge Medicinal Garden's token, is there only one? I can tell you're still hoping for a fluke." The disciple didn't find it strange and rolled his eyes. "The Eastern Ridge Medicinal Garden is very far from my Thunder Shock Palace. Every year, only Zhenming goes there once when Grandmaster Zhenhan is refining the clear flower pill. Normally, no one pays attention to that place, so naturally, there's a spare token. But the strange thing is, when Zhenming couldn't enter the medicinal garden for fear of delaying his refining, he came back to look for the spare token. That token was actually not there and mysteriously disappeared." "Ah. Disappeared? When did it disappear?" Xiao Hua was shocked. That token disappeared, which meant that someone could enter and exit the Eastern Ridge Formation at any time. Then, his own safety was not assured. How could he not be shocked? "How would I know?" The disciple rolled his eyes again. No one went to the Eastern Ridge Medicinal Garden for hundreds of years. No one paid attention to that spare token for a long time. Even the deacon doesn't know, so how would I know? Xiao Hua's eyes turned slightly, and he thought. Could it be, there's something special in the Eastern Ridge? Looks like I'll have to properly search for it when I get back. The disciple continued, as for asking the elders to break the restriction, only you can think of that. That restriction was set up by the ancestors. Who would dare to disturb them if it wasn't a serious matter? While they were talking, the two of them arrived in front of a side hall. The disciple told Xiao Hua to wait at the door, and he went in to report. Damn it, what should we do now? Xiao Hua stood there with his hands clasped behind his back, slightly frowning. He had only been in the Imperial Thunder sect for less than 100 days, and he had already gotten himself into trouble. Xiao Hua already knew what the clear flower pill was. It was a pill used by Foundation Establishment stage cultivators to increase their power. Even within the Imperial Thunder sect, there weren't many of them. Every Foundation Establishment stage cultivator only had a small supply every year. If he delayed the concoction of the clear flower pill, he would most likely delay the cultivation of many of the Thunderclap Palace's Foundation Establishment cultivators. But, no one told me when someone would come to the Eastern Ridge to pick the Flame Dawn grass every year. Xiao Hua felt that he was very innocent. Just as Xiao Hua was thinking, the disciple came out from the side hall. Behind the disciple were two other Foundation Establishment stage cultivators. One of them was a middle-aged man in the late stage of Foundation Establishment stage. He was tall, had a full beard, and a pair of bell-like eyes. He looked very ferocious. The other one was Zhenfeng, whom Xiao Hua met last time. When Xiao Hua saw Zhenfeng, a happy expression appeared on his face. He thought to himself, wonderful, this Zhenfeng should know. Before this thought even appeared in his mind, a trace of anger appeared on Zhenfeng's face. He quickly took half a step forward and berated, Xiao Hua. What did you do? I told you clearly that day. In another 10 days, it will be the day of picking the Flame Dawn grass. You mustn't be careless. Don't do it yourself, just wait for your senior brother Zhenming to pick it. You can also watch from the side. Wait until next year, you can pick it yourself. There's no need for your senior brother Zhenming to go. You, on the other hand, sealed the Eastern Ridge's formation. No matter how Zhenming called you, you wouldn't come out. You. Sigh, fortunately, you knew to come to the Thunder Flash Hall to receive your punishment. Let's see how Deacon Zhenfeng will deal with it. Xiao Hua was slightly stunned. He rolled his eyes and could only sigh. He bowed to the big man and said, Disciple Xiao Hua greets Senior Zhenfeng. Disciple only cared about cultivation, but forgot his duty and failed to live up to Deacon's kindness. Deacon, please punish me. So you're Xiao Hua. Zhenfeng looked Xiao Hua up and down a few times, but didn't see anything special. He said with a bit of displeasure, the palace lord specially ordered this deacon to arrange a job for you. This Eastern Ridge was also chosen by you. Why did you slack off when you just arrived at the herb garden? I know you chose the Eastern Ridge because you want to be free and wholeheartedly focused on cultivation. But cultivation is cultivation, you can't forget your duty as a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect. If every disciple was like you, wouldn't my Imperial Thunder sect be a plate of loose sand? How can my Imperial Thunder sect establish itself in the country of Shi? I only use you once a year and you make a mistake. Moreover, the Eastern Ridge hasn't. Alas, what should this deacon say about you? Disciple knows his mistake. Xiao Hua was very helpless. He could only bow again. Alright, this deacon doesn't care. But, you're still a probationary disciple now. In another 10 months, you'll become an official disciple. Your mistake this time. I'm afraid it will affect your assessment. If you don't pass the assessment, you'll still have to leave the Imperial Thunder sect. Xiao Hua was very anxious. He stretched out his hand and took out the storage pouch. He said anxiously, Disciple, has already picked the Flame Dawn grass. I don't know if I can atone for my mistake. Atone for your mistake. Zhenfeng sneered and said, "What kind of mistake did you make? How can you atone for your mistake?" As he spoke, he took the storage pouch and took out the jade box. His face revealed a trace of surprise. He looked at Xiaohua and said, "Did you pick this?" "Yes, disciple picked it." Xiaohua nodded. "Yes, there's a special technique to pick this flame dawn grass. The technique isn't easy to grasp. Seeing that the flame dawn grass you picked was clean and didn't damage the roots, it's pretty good." Zhen Feng's expression eased a bit. "Ayo, Xiaohua." Zhenfeng suddenly cried out from the side, "I remember the last time you came, you were still in the middle of the 10th level of qi refining, right?" "How?" Xiaohua's heart shook. He hurriedly nodded and said, Disciple went into secluded cultivation to break through the bottleneck of the 10th level of qi refining." Of course, Disciple remembered Senior Zhen Feng's instructions and wanted to come out before Senior Brother Zhen Ming went to the Eastern Ridge, but... "Oh, I understand." Zhenfeng nodded and said to Zhenfeng, "The bottleneck from the 10th level of qi refining to the 11th level of qi refining is really difficult. It's the beginning of the birth of divine sense." Xiaohua wholeheartedly went into secluded cultivation, so it's understandable. Moreover, Xiaohua actually used 2 months to go from the middle of the 10th level of qi refining to the middle of the 11th level of qi refining. As expected of, the person that the palace master thinks highly of. If he can't become a disciple of our Thunderclap Palace because of this mistake, it'll really be our Thunderclap Palace's loss. Zhenfeng also nodded slightly, a trace of surprise flashing through his eyes. He'd heard of someone going from the first level of qi refining to the second level of qi refining in 2 months, but he'd never heard of a disciple going from the 10th level of qi refining to the 11th level of qi refining. This Xiaohua was the disciple that Thunder Meng Daoist instructed, so how could he not pay attention to him? Zhenfeng nodded slightly, looking at Xiaohua and saying, "Looking at your aptitude, you can be cultivated. However, you must remember that you're now a disciple of the Thunderclap sect, not a disciple of an aristocratic family. When considering anything, you must put the sect's interests first." "Yes, disciple understands." Xiaohua's heart relaxed, and he bowed and said, "Since this is your first offense, I won't look into it too deeply. I'll punish you with a year's worth of offerings." Zhenfeng waved his hand and returned the storage pouch to Xiaohua, saying, "Let Zhenfeng take you to see Martial Uncle Zhenyi. If he can let this matter pass, you'll be fine, otherwise." Zhenfeng didn't finish his words, but Xiaohua naturally understood. There were only 2 meanings. If Xiaohua didn't pass the test in a few months, he'd still be expelled from the mountain. If not, he'd have to ask Thunder Meng Daoist to come out and talk. Xiaohua's heart was bitter, but he could only put on a smile, saying, "Thank you for your kindness, senior." Soon after, Xiaohua followed Zhenfeng out of the Thunderclap Palace and flew towards a mountain range. Seeing that there was no one around, Zhenfeng said, "Xiaohua, picking the blazed dawn grass a few days earlier or later doesn't matter." However, this matter was a bit coincidental. Martial Uncle Zhenxia, who was supposed to be refining the blazed dawn pill, suddenly disappeared, and Martial Uncle Zhenyi was temporarily left behind by the palace master to refine the blazed dawn pill. Martial Uncle Zhenyi originally wanted to go on a trip, so of course he wasn't willing. On top of that, the blazed dawn grass wasn't delivered in time, so he flew into a rage. Zhen Ming was also punished with a year's worth of offerings. When you arrive at Martial Uncle Zhenye's Immortal's Cave, you must properly apologize. If this matter isn't settled, it'll be really bad for you. Seeing that Zhenfeng didn't mention anything about the date of picking the blazed dawn grass, Xiaohua sneered in his heart. This thing was just empty words. Just now, he didn't mention it in front of Zhenfeng, so there was no need to mention it now. However, Xiaohua had another plan in his heart. None of the things in Zhenxia's storage pouch were damaged, I took them all. This guy is actually a pill master, so there must be some pill recipes in there. I'm at the 11th layer of qi refining, and I'm worried about not having any pills to take. When I go back, I'll take a careful look. After flying for 2 hours, they arrived at a place with beautiful mountains and limpid waters. Zhenfeng didn't come any closer, so he sent out a summoning talisman. A moment later, a boy around the 4th layer of qi refining flew out from the mountainside. Looking at the two of them, he laughed and said, "Which one of you is senior martial brother Xiaohua?" Xiaohua took a step forward and cupped his hands, saying, "I am." "And, senior martial brother Xiao, please follow I." "This senior doesn't need to come." Zhenfeng looked at Xiaohua, nodded slightly, then turned around and left. "Senior martial brother Xiao, please." The boy stood up and led the way, leading Xiaohua into the Immortal's Cave. Chapter 1562. After entering the Immortal's Cave, Xiaohua looked around. Zhen Ye's Immortal's Cave was different from Wu Hen's Immortal's Cave. It was much larger, and there were many mountain paths leading to different places. There were also quite a few qi condensation disciples walking about. It was very lively. The boy leading the way didn't stop in the slightest. He brought Xiaohua through several Immortals' caves until they arrived at the innermost alchemy room. "Wait here." The boy pointed with his hand and entered the alchemy room. "Yes, I understand." Xiaohua respectfully stood outside the alchemy room, waiting for the summons. However, a moment after the disciple entered, a divine sense swept over Xiaohua's body. After that, no one paid attention to Xiaohua. Not only did the disciple not come out, but the disciples who came in and out of the alchemy room also didn't look at Xiaohua. After a moment, Xiaohua knew what was going on. He sighed and didn't move. His mind entered the space and began to comprehend the heavenly Tao. In his meridians, the heavenly reflection technique was also operating. Xiaohua actually began to cultivate. He was really unwilling to let such a good time go to waste. Inside the alchemy room, an old man with white hair and a beard was sitting cross-legged. His face was grim. In front of him was an earth fire with an alchemy furnace above it. Around the furnace, there were 6 disciples sitting cross-legged, holding different things in their hands. Some were gourds, some were fans, some were talismans, and there were also jade boxes and jade bottles. The disciple who led Xiaohua in was sitting cross-legged behind the old man, holding a jade tray in his hand. Fire. The old man was Zhenyi. He observed the earth fire with his divine sense and suddenly shouted in a low voice. When the disciple holding the gourd heard this, he hurriedly raised the gourd and formed seals with his hands. From the gourd, several strands of samadhi true fire flew out and rushed into the earth fire. With a whoosh, the earth fire suddenly became smaller and turned into a purple-red color. Zhenyi formed seals with his hands and struck the alchemy furnace in succession. The alchemy furnace actually emitted a buzzing sound and almost floated up. Sigh. Zhen Ye's expression changed slightly as he exclaimed, "We have the upper hand." The disciple holding the fan was an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. When he heard this, he immediately activated his magic power and raised the fan in his hand to fan the pill furnace. The fan was clearly a magic tool. As he waved it, the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth was sucked into the fan. Then, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was fanned out by the fan. However, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was now several times denser than before. When the dense heaven and earth spirit qi was fanned into the earth fire, the purplish-red earth fire flickered a few times and became smaller. The red color was less and the purple color was more. The pill furnace shook even more violently. Zhen Ye's expression relaxed slightly. He cast a few spells, and the pill furnace floated up from the earth fire. But at this moment, Zhen Ye's expression changed greatly. His tightly shut eyes slightly opened. He formed seals with his left hand and slapped it on his chest. Before Zhen Ye's left hand left his chest, a wisp of purple true samadhi fire was spat out from his mouth and hit the pill furnace. Wu, the earth fire that was burning around the pill furnace suddenly changed again, turning into a purple color. The violently shaking pill furnace gradually stabilized under the purple true samadhi fire and slowly fell down. Sai Zhenye's eyes gazed at the true samadhi fire that was mixed with many red flames and sighed again. The cultivator holding the fan in his hand kept the fan. Seeing that the pill furnace had stabilized, he whispered, "Master, you don't have to be too obsessed. How many cultivators in our country of Shi can refine the true samadhi fire to be as pure as yours? I'm afraid that an overly pure true samadhi fire doesn't exist in our cultivation world." Zhenqing, Master naturally knows what you're saying, but, without the extremely pure true samadhi fire, it's impossible to refine this clear flower pill to the highest grade. Master has refined so many clear flower pills, but at most they're high grade. Master is unwilling to accept this. Actually, Master can consider from other aspects. For example, the age of the Shaoyan grass, the weight of the clear stream fruit, etc. Zhenye's face was full of displeasure. He waved his hand. How can Master not know these things? He, disciple naturally knows. Master knows, disciple, alright, I know what you're thinking. You've also worked hard. As a foundation establishment cultivator, you still have to accompany Master to refine pills. You should go back. Zhenyi smiled, this clear flower pill will be refined in another 7 days. There shouldn't be any problems. Master, disciple rarely has the chance to accompany you. Let's stay a little longer. Zhenqing called over the boy who brought Xiaohua in and had him put away the fan. He then sat behind Zhenyi. If not for senior brother Zhenxie's sudden disappearance, disciple wouldn't have the chance to accompany Master to refine pills. However, to have Master refine clear flower pills with gold core stage cultivation is a waste of talent. It can't be said to be a waste of talent. When Master was at foundation establishment, I also refined clear flower pills many times. Zhenyi said with a smile. However, Palace Lord's obstruction has delayed a very important matter of Master's. Palace Lord, there's no other way. If you don't take action, who can accept the task of refining clear flower pills? Zhenqing smiled apologetically. I don't know where senior brother Zhenxie went. Every year he has to refine clear flower pills. Why did he make a mistake this year? Oh, this. Zhenyi looked at the boys around him and transmitted his voice. According to Palace Lord, 2 months ago, Zhenxie's life tablet was already broken. It was discovered by the disciple on duty. The palace only sent people to look for clues, but forgot about him refining clear flower pills. Ah! Zhenqing's face was filled with shock. He also transmitted his voice. Where did this happen? How would Master know? Zhenyi shook his head slightly. Zhenqing didn't pursue the matter. He looked outside the alchemy room and frowned. What is the disciple outside the alchemy room doing? A disciple who just entered my Imperial Thunder sect this year is guarding the Eastern Ridge's Blaze Dawn grass. A disciple from Lightning Hall went to pick Blaze Dawn grass, but this guy actually neglected his duty and didn't open the array so that the disciple couldn't enter, delaying Master's refining of clear flower pills. He had no choice but to pick Blaze Dawn grass from other places. The quality of the Blaze Dawn grass from other places isn't good enough. I'm afraid that the clear flower pills Master will refine this time can only be mid-grade. Zhenyi swept his divine sense and sneered, this kind of aristocratic family's disciple must be self-centered and never put the interests of the sect in his heart. If I don't teach him a lesson, he'll think that the Imperial Thunder sect is an aristocratic family. This guy must be working hard. He actually has to cultivate after being punished here. Zhenyi coldly snorted. Xiaohua's heart was greatly shaken, as if a large hand had pulled his mind out of the space. Moreover, the true qi in his meridians was also in chaos, wanting to rush everywhere. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. Just as he was about to calm his mind and straighten out his true qi, an enormous pressure came out from the pill room and enveloped his head. As early as 2 years ago, on Jinhua Mountain, the pressure of Fu Yunbo and Qiu Mingwei, 2 foundation establishment stage cultivators, collided. To him, it was a perilous situation. Today, how could the pressure of a gold core stage cultivator not cause him to tremble in fear? In an instant, the true qi in Xiaohua's meridians couldn't move, as if it had solidified. His body also felt as if a huge rock was pressing down on him, and large beads of sweat seeped out from his forehead. Gold core stage cultivator. Xiaohua powerlessly shouted in his heart. As if to teach Xiaohua a lesson, the pressure was withdrawn in an instant, and the true qi in Xiaohua's meridians began to peacefully circulate again. Xiaohua wiped the sweat from his forehead and bowed respectfully, many thanks to martial ancestor. Humph, another cold snort, and then no other sound was heard. This time, Xiaohua didn't dare to cultivate anymore, and only stood respectfully. Another 7 days and 7 nights passed, and only a light scolding sound could be heard from the pill room. A rich medicinal fragrance rushed out from the pill room, and after a moment, the pill room's door opened, and Zhenyi walked out from the pill room. Xiaohua hurriedly respectfully saluted and said, "Disciple Xiaohua greets martial ancestor." Who would have thought that Zhenyi didn't even look at him, and just walked away? Zhenqing and the others also took their own things and followed behind Zhenyi. Xiaohua looked at everyone's backs and somewhat scratched his head, not knowing whether he should follow or not. "Why aren't you coming over?" A voice entered his ears, and it sounded very unfamiliar. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent, and hurriedly followed behind everyone. The group of people didn't walk too far, and arrived at a large hall. Each of the children placed their things in various places in the hall, and then immediately dispersed, leaving only Zhenyi and Zhenqing, master and disciple, sitting down. Xiaohua also learned his lesson, and didn't dare to enter the hall, and only quietly waited outside. Inside the hall, Zhenyi drank a cup of spiritual tea and ate 2 spiritual fruits, then raised his head and looked at Xiaohua outside the hall. "Master, you've already made this little guy wait for 10 days. Looking at this little guy's appearance, he's able to keep his composure, and has some bearing. It's better to call him in and send him away, it didn't take long anyway." "Humph." Zhenyi glanced at Zhenqing. "You're the only one with a soft heart. How many times have I told you that the most important thing in the cultivation world is a soft heart?" "Yes, disciple understands." Zhenqing smiled apologetically, then raised his head and said, "Disciple outside, come in." When Xiaohua heard this voice, he hurriedly ran into the hall, looked at the two, and bowed. Disciple Xiaohua greets the 2 seniors. "And, whose disciple are you?" Zhenyi asked very calmly. Reporting to martial ancestor, disciple is a helpless disciple of the myriad Thunder Valley. Xiaohua naturally knew that this unfathomable cultivator was the gold core realm Zhenyi, and very respectfully replied. "Helpless?" Zhenyi frowned slightly, and said curiously, "This brat's eyesight is really not ordinary. That disciple from before made him lose face, and this newly accepted disciple is still so useless." Hearing Zhenyi's words, Xiaohua was slightly angered in his heart. It wasn't a big deal for Zhenyi to say that he was a good-for-nothing. Over the past few years, he had suffered more than that. However, when he heard Zhenyi badmouthing Xiang Yang, Xiaohua couldn't help but reply, "This disciple made a mistake. It is this disciple's fault. There's no reason for me to implicate senior martial brother and make him a laughingstock." Chapter 1563. Huh? What? Don't tell me I said he was unworthy. Zhenyi never expected Xiaohua to talk back. He was so angry that he almost laughed. "Martial ancestor, this disciple doesn't dare to agree." Xiaohua stiffened his neck and said, "My 10,000 Thunder Valley was able to produce such a benevolent and filial disciple. Even someone like this disciple who just entered 10,000 Thunder Valley would have a face full of glory. How did I become the person that martial ancestors said would lose face for the sect? Benevolent and filial?" Zhenyi sneered, "If he wasn't benevolent and filial, I'm afraid he'd already be in the late stage of foundation establishment. At the very least, he'd be in the middle stage of foundation establishment. How could he be like this? He's only in the early stage of foundation establishment, yet he's being ridiculed by others every day. If this isn't losing face, then what is? Others ridiculing me is because they have eyes but fail to see. Xiaohua retorted sarcastically, if it wasn't for senior brother, my 10,000 Thunder Valley would have already changed hands. I'm afraid this disciple wouldn't have been able to enter Master's sect. I wouldn't have been able to listen to Master's teachings. Because of this disciple wanted to thank senior brother at that time. I couldn't let senior brother be ridiculed by others. Have eyes but fail to see. Zhenyi slapped the table and stood up. He released a wave of pressure. This pressure was several times stronger than before. Xiaohua felt as if he was frozen in a hard rock. He couldn't move at all. However, the fear that came from the bottom of his heart made his whole body tremble non-stop. Master. Zhenqing said in a low voice, Xiaohua is still a child. You don't have any reason to lower yourself to his level. How can this old man lower himself to his level? Zhenyi snorted and sat back in his chair. He glared at Zhenqing and said, this old man is angry that the Imperial Thunder Sect's recruitment of disciples is getting worse and worse. How can this kind of soft-hearted disciple be accepted? I'm afraid that in the future, Xuanyan School, Shanghua Sect, and Qiqiao Sect will gnaw on him until not even his bones remain. Master, this disciple feels that Xiaohua's words aren't without reason. Zhenqing said with a smile, at least, Xiang Yang's heart puts the sect first. He's much better than those traitorous disciples from influential families. I knew you would say that. Zhenyi snorted again and withdrew his pressure. Xiaohua immediately felt much more relaxed and didn't dare to say anything else. Let this old man ask you, which clan's disciple are you? Zhenyi looked at Xiaohua and asked. Reporting to Grandmaster, this disciple is a loose cultivator. Xiaohua spoke the truth. What? A rogue cultivator? Not only did Zhen Ye's expression change, even Zhenqing's brows furrowed. It's very rare for a rogue cultivator to reach the 11th level of qi refining. Zhenyi sneered. Xiaohua naturally knew what they were talking about. After thinking for a moment, he cupped his hands and said, disciple has something to say. If it's inappropriate, I hope Grandmaster can forgive me. Speak. Just now, Grandmaster said that my eldest senior brother is merciful and doesn't treat raising his cultivation as his top priority. He's purposely throwing away my master's face. But why are we, rogue cultivators, despised by others for raising our cultivation by hook or by crook? Of course it's important to raise your cultivation, but you can't be unscrupulous. Rogue cultivators don't care about etiquette and rob others. Of course it's despised by our cultivation sects. Zhenyi still sneered. Rogue cultivators don't have medicinal pills or cultivation methods. If they don't rely on robbing, what can they rely on to raise their cultivation? Xiaohua said, besides, since Grandmaster said that we can't be unscrupulous, why is it that when my master wasn't in Myriad Thunder Valley, someone coveted Myriad Thunder Valley? Is that a very good method? Grandmaster didn't say that other people's methods were inappropriate, but why did he say that my senior brother who was robbed was a disgrace? This. In an instant, Zhenyi was really stumped by this question. His face was a little green and red. Master, this brat is really interesting. You were just joking with him, but he actually said so much. Zhenqing hurriedly said with a loud laugh. Zhenyi stared blankly, but soon after, he also laughed loudly. He pointed at Xiaohua and said, you brat, go back and tell this to your helpless master. What are you doing in front of this old man for? When Xiaohua heard this, his heart relaxed greatly. He cupped his hands and said, disciple saw that Grandmaster is perceptive to the smallest detail, so I said it in front of Grandmaster. If disciple said it in front of master, I would have been kicked out long ago. Perceptive to the smallest detail. Zhen Ye's expression changed again. He said, don't flatter me. If you're in the wrong, just say it yourself. Yes, disciple doesn't dare quibble. Disciple was indeed in the wrong. Xiaohua's expression also became serious. He took out his storage pouch and said, disciple picked the blazed dawn grass and brought it here to receive Grandmaster's punishment. Zhenqing glanced at Zhenyi, and with a wave of his hand, the storage pouch flew into his hand. Zhenyi looked at Xiaohua and asked, what punishment did Bright Thunder Hall give you? Disciple is punished with a year's worth of offerings. Xiaohua said honestly. Only a year's worth of offerings. Zhenyi sneered. How much can a year's worth of offerings be? Disciples of aristocratic families who can enter my Imperial Thunder sect. Speaking up to here, Zhenyi suddenly remembered that Xiaohua was a loose cultivator. This year's worth of offerings was probably quite a lot for him. Huh? Xiaohua, did you pick this blazed dawn grass yourself? Zhenqing opened the storage pouch and took out a jade box to look, and asked with some surprise. Yes, disciple personally picked it. Xiaohua's eyes turned slightly as he replied. Master, please take a look. Zhenqing gave the jade box to Zhenyi and said, this blazed dawn grass was picked at just the right time. It didn't hurt the roots at all. It's much stronger than the blazed dawn grass that disciple saw just now. And, it's really not bad. Zhenyi nodded after looking at it. He looked at Xiaohua and said, this little loose cultivator's explanation is much better than the vast majority of disciples of aristocratic families. I'm afraid it's better than many of my Imperial Thunder sect's herb-growing children. What do you mean? Zhenyi looked at Zhenqing and asked. Zhenqing transmitted a few words to Zhenyi. Zhenyi frowned and thought for a moment, then slightly nodded. He then said to Xiaohua, Xiaohua, you made a mistake this time and delayed the refining of my Thunderclap Palace's Minghua pill. This crime isn't light. Since you just entered my Imperial Thunder sect and this is your first offense, I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself. Many thanks, Grandmaster. Xiaohua hurriedly bowed and thanked him. Don't thank me. It won't be too late to thank me after I finish speaking. Zhenyi waved his hand and said, I saw that your method of picking flame dawn grass was very brilliant. You should have experience in cultivating spirit herbs. I wonder if you've stayed in a pill refining room before. Disciple has some experience. Xiaohua nodded. And, do you have a fire attribute physique? Yes, disciple has a fire attribute. Good, then you'll be a pill refining child in my pill refining room for a year. That's enough. Zhenyi clapped his hands and said with a smile. Ah. This. Xiaohua was slightly stunned. Why aren't you agreeing? Zhenqing's voice sounded once more. Master has seen your herb-gathering skills, and he appreciates your talent. If you agree and perform well this year, Master might be overjoyed. Even if he doesn't accept you as his disciple, it would still be a blessing for you to learn how to concoct pills. That's right, just now Master said that if your aptitude is good, after you reach foundation establishment, he can even consider passing on the true Samadhi fire technique to you. Hearing this, Xiaohua understood. To an ordinary disciple, how could this be considered a punishment? It was simply a reward. An incomparable reward. However, did Xiaohua lack these things? It wasn't like he didn't know how to refine medicinal pills or the true Samadhi fire technique. What he lacked now was time, an opportunity to cultivate in seclusion. That day, Jade Archive Hall's Zhen Liang wanted to delay Xiaohua's registration, delaying him for a year. Xiaohua could angrily teach him a lesson, so how could he waste a year in Zhenye's pill refining room? Although Zhenqing wanted to help him with good intentions, but, Xiaohua thought for a moment, then very apologetically smiled at Zhenqing. He then bowed to Zhenyi and said, Many thanks for Grandmaster's good intentions, disciple is willing to redeem himself. Unfortunately, disciple only knows how to grow spirit herbs and isn't familiar with pill refining. If disciple delays Grandmaster's pill refining, disciple can't bear the responsibility. Grandmaster, Please reconsider. Zhen Yi and Zhen Qing's expressions changed slightly. What kind of person was Zhen Qing? He had only seen Xiaohua protecting Xiang Yang and felt pity in his heart. Although the method of harvesting was good, it was only an excuse. Since Xiaohua didn't care about this kind of opportunity, how could he say another word? Humph. Very good. Zhen Yi sneered. He thought for a moment and said, this old man originally made an appointment with an old friend to look for something. However, because your Blaze Dawn grass didn't arrive, the journey was delayed. At this time, they should have already left. This thing is very important to this old man. This old man also waited for many years to get the news. Since this time was delayed because of you, help this old man find another one. As he spoke, he waved his hand and a jade slip flew into Xiaohua's hand. This. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He looked at the jade slip and said, Disciple, how can disciple look at this thing? Besides, how can disciple find something that Grandmaster cares about? This won't do, that won't do. Do you want to receive punishment or not? Zhen Yi sneered, besides, this old man only asked you to look for information about something, not for you to look for it. You used to be a loose cultivator, so you should have some connections to inquire about it. Moreover, this old man isn't asking you to look for it right now. You only need to find the information within 10 years. Ah. 10 years? That long? Xiaohua was stunned. 10 years is too short. Then 20 years it is. Zhen Yi said, if you can't find the information within 20 years, this old man can still deal with you when the time comes. Damn it, I might as well be his pill concoction boy for a year. Xiaohua secretly complained in his heart. However, since things had already reached this point, how could he still go back? Then, these few years of Disciples' Foundation establishment realm, do they count? Xiaohua began to calculate with his fingers. Nonsense, of course they count. Zhen Yi glared at him. He knew what Xiaohua was thinking and said, you don't have divine sense right now, so you can ask your eldest senior brother to help you look. He impatiently came to this old man's immortal's cave several times already. Just ask him to tell you. As he spoke, he waved his hand again and said, you can go now. Leave the storage pouch here and let your master give you another one. This can also be considered a punishment. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for it. Chapter 1564. Xiaohua had no choice but to bow and leave. Seeing Xiaohua's figure disappear, Zhen Qing laughed and said, this myriad Thunder Valley, why does it only recruit such an unreliable disciple? First it was Xiang Yang, then Xiaohua, and now there's no choice. TSK, what a rotten porridge. Soon after, Zhen Qing said softly, it's fine if master didn't punish such an untactful disciple, but why did you give him the jade slip? Let him help master find it. Even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. I'm afraid he still doesn't have that ability. Zhen Yi shook his head. Anyway, the bright flower pill has already been refined. Xiaohua also hurried over to accept his punishment. In addition, Lightning Thunder Hall has already punished him with a year's worth of daily offerings. Not to mention that I'm a Gold Core Stage Grandmaster, even you, a Foundation Establishment Stage Martial Uncle, can't really punish him. That's true. But he's a new disciple of Lightning Thunder Palace. He's only been here for 2 months. I'm afraid he hasn't even explored the entire Lightning Thunder Palace. This careless mistake is understandable. Zhen Qing nodded. The reason why he interceded for Xiaohua before was also based on this. But, this bastard has really delayed me for these 10 days. Zhen Yi was somewhat angry. Although I can't tell if the information about that thing is true or false, it's still an opportunity. This old man is so tired that I can't go with him. This old man is unwilling. Master gave him the jade slip. Zhenqing seemed to understand something. And, don't forget, Xiaohua is a loose cultivator. How many loose cultivators have you seen in the middle of the 11th layer of qi refining? Zhen Yi sneered. In the country of Xi, or in the entire cultivation world, how many loose cultivators above the 11th layer of qi refining are there? Zhenqing shook his head. Although there are many loose cultivators, most of them have shallow cultivation bases. Even foundation establishment and gold core loose cultivators live in seclusion in spirit veins deep in the mountains and cultivate bitterly. Disciple really hasn't seen many loose cultivators at the 11th layer of qi refining. Moreover, he's a loose cultivator who took spirit herbs to retain his looks. Zhen Yi smiled meaningfully and said, do you think that if Xiaohua didn't have some tricks up his sleeves in the state of Xi, and didn't have a source of information, he would be able to get enough medicinal pills, spirit herbs, and spirit stones to help him reach the 11th level of qi refining? I understand. Zhenqing smiled and said, Master gave him the jade slip only to let him find information about that thing. He didn't really let him search for it. With his previous methods as a rogue cultivator, he might really be able to find it. That's right. Zhen Yi looked outside the cave with a kind smile on his face. However, he had another explanation in his heart. This old man is giving you a way out, but you still don't know how to take it. Then this old man can only reach out and punish him. If I don't make you suffer a little, how can I feel at ease in my heart? Xiaohua, don't think that it's just a simple piece of news. Moreover, it's a 20-year time limit. If you don't look for him, if you don't give this old man any news within 20 years, even if this old man doesn't find trouble with you, do you think your cultivation won't be affected? This kind of punishment. Isn't it much more interesting than punishing you for a year? How could Xiaohua, who had left Zhen Ye's immortal's cave, know that there was so much karma involved? Seeing his eldest senior brother Xiang Yang's figure waiting not far from the cave, his heart felt warm. When Xiang Yang saw Xiaohua come out, he didn't dare to go too close. He waved his hand from afar, hinting for Xiaohua to come over. When Xiaohua arrived in front of him, Xiang Yang looked up at the cave behind Xiaohua and said in a low voice, How was it? Martial Uncle Zhen Yi didn't make things difficult for you, right? Xiaohua rolled his eyes and said with a smile, How could that be? He's an Oris Core stage grandmaster. There's no reason for him to make things difficult for me, right? That's good, that's good. Xiang Yang rubbed his hands and pulled Xiaohua's hand, saying, Let's hurry back to Myriad Thunder Valley. Master is also worried there. Eldest senior brother, how many days have you been waiting here? Xiaohua smiled and flew up. I've been waiting for you for a few days. Xiang Yang said with a smile, When I received your message, I immediately notified Master. However, when I arrived at Eastern Ridge, the formation was still sealed, but my message was already gone. Therefore, I went to Thunder Flash Hall. Alas, I was also careless. If I had asked clearly earlier, it would have been better. I made you bear the blame for no reason. It's okay, it's okay. Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand. When I heard Jinfeng's words, I hurried here. However, Martial Uncle Zhen Yi is a senior, and his temper can't be said to be good or bad. Therefore, I didn't dare to rashly ask for an audience. Moreover, I saw that you didn't come out for many days. Presumably, you were waiting inside. The longer you wait, the more Martial Uncle Zhen Ye's anger will dissipate. That's more beneficial for you. I also didn't expect that you would be able to come out today. Only now did Xiang Yang notice Xiaohua's cultivation. He was shocked and said, Little junior brother, you are actually already in the middle of the 11th level of aura refining? I'll take advantage of senior brother's auspicious words. Xiaohua said with a smile, As soon as I entered the Immortal's cave in the eastern mountain range, I had a feeling in my heart and went into seclusion to cultivate. If it wasn't for the fact that I was at a critical juncture, how could I not open the spell formation and delay the Eastern Mountain Range's Medicinal Gardens mission? Ha ha ha! Xiang Yang clapped his hands and said, I only thought that little junior brother would be cultivating in seclusion, but I didn't expect little junior brother to progress so quickly. If master knew, he'd definitely be very happy. As he said this, Xiang Yang was about to send a summoning talisman. Xiaohua hurriedly stopped him and said, Don't, eldest senior brother. Wait until you see master. At least there'll be a pleasant surprise. Hee, that's true. Xiang Yang looked at Xiaohua happily, as if he was looking at a sensible nephew. Xiaohua originally wanted to let Xiang Yang look at the things in the jade slip, but on second thought, this thing was something that even Jinyi coveted. It was certainly no small matter, and information about it would definitely be extremely difficult to find out. If Xiang Yang or Jinyi were to find out about this, they would most likely be powerless and anxious. Rather than letting them know, it would be better not to let them know. There was a time limit of 20 years, so it wouldn't be too late to wait until he reached the Foundation Establishment realm. After flying with Xiang Yang for a while, Xiaohua changed directions and had Xiang Yang accompany him to the Thunder-Shocking Palace. When Jin Feng heard that Jinyi didn't pursue the matter too much, he was overjoyed. To be honest, this matter was originally his fault. Now that Xiaohua was fine, his heart could be considered relaxed. As for Xiaohua's other request, he didn't even think about it before agreeing. Xiaohua's request was very reasonable, and that was to bring some spiritual plant seeds from the Thunder-Shocking Palace to the Eastern Mountain Range's medicinal garden. He wanted to test which seeds could survive in the Eastern Mountain Range and which seeds couldn't. Not to mention Jin Feng, even Xiang Yang didn't have any doubts. He only thought that Xiaohua wanted to make up for his mistake by going first. When Xiaohua came out with a lot of seeds from the Thunder-Shocking Palace, Xiang Yang smiled and said, Little junior brother, your performance was good enough, but wasn't this too much? Apart from the extremely rare spiritual plants, you took a portion of the vast majority of seeds. The spiritual energy of the Eastern Mountain Range is very special, so many seeds can't grow. Hee, who knows? Maybe little brother's character is good. Xiaohua put away the storage pouch and said, Moreover, there are a lot of seeds in the Thunder-Shocking Palace, so little brother taking a few isn't much at all, right? Hee, Xiang Yang only thought that Xiaohua had a childish character, so he didn't say anything more. He brought Xiaohua to Zhenwu's cave in the Myriad Thunder Valley. When they arrived in front of Zhenwu's cave and landed, the mountain ape scuttled out of the mountain forest. It was holding a bloody goat-like beast in its hand, standing very respectfully by the side of the road. When it saw Xiang Yang deliver the beast in front of him, Xiang Yang waved his hand and pointed to a valley not far away. The mountain ape understood and knew that he should go there to barbecue. However, the mountain ape just didn't leave, bowing its head and cupping its hands. Seeing the beast's blood drip to the ground along with the mountain ape's cupped hands, Xiang Yang helplessly patted his storage pouch and took out a pill and threw it to the mountain ape. The mountain ape happily caught it with its mouth, then with a long howl, it rushed towards the valley. Seeing the mountain ape's actions, Xiaohua's heart moved. He had a set of soul-suppressing magic tools for the fire ape in his space. If he said that he didn't want to subdue the fire ape, that would be pure nonsense. But, how would he subdue it? Xiaohua. A helpless voice called out from inside the cave. Master, disciple Xiaohua kowtows in salute to master. Xiaohua stood at the door and said very respectfully. Damn it, what kind of etiquette is this? Helplessly said with a grin, could it be that after cultivating to the 11th layer of qi refining, you've become so refined for no reason? Joy could be heard in Helplessly's voice. Where was the slightest trace of anger? Xiaohua smiled and looked at Xiang Yang, whose face was also full of smiles, then walked in together. Needless to say, Zhe Minghui and Yan Qinglian were also inside the cave. As soon as Yan Qinglian saw Xiaohua, she said with a smile, Congratulations, little junior brother, for setting foot into the 11th layer of qi refining. If nothing unexpected happens, little junior brother will be able to set foot into foundation building in another 2 years. Even if you're not the youngest person to reach foundation building in our Imperial Thunder sect, you'll definitely be able to rank in the top 100. Ha ha ha, helplessly listened, and his face became even happier. He stroked his beard and said, at the very least, in the past 500 years, among the cultivators that have set foot into foundation building in our thunderous Thunder Palace, Xiaohua can rank in the top 10. Hee, congratulations to Master for having discerning eyes and accepting little junior brother into our myriad Thunder Valley. Xiang Yang cupped his hands and said. Ha ha ha, helplessly laughed proudly. Zhuo Minghui and the others also looked on happily. Io, that's right, little junior brother, these are your offerings for the past 2 months. Xiang Yang patted his storage pouch and took out a few spirit stones and a bottle of medicinal pills. He said with a smile, now that you're about to break through to the 12th layer of qi refining, these things can also be used. Wasn't the thunderous Thunder Hall punished? Xiaohua looked at these medicinal pills and other things and said with a bit of confusion. What? Punished? Helplessly's face darkened. Hee, it's like this, Master. Xiang Yang explained the situation and finally said, these tributes were collected by this disciple on behalf of little junior brother. The tributes for the year of punishment should be counted from this month onwards. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for it. Chapter 1565. What's going on? Xiaohua was the hope of myriad Thunder Valley. How could he let Xiaohua be wronged? Xiaohua was obviously stunned, but he soon understood that Xiang Yang didn't tell him about his punishment. And he didn't even tell him about the Eastern Ridge Medicinal Garden. Just as Xiaohua was about to speak, Xiang Yang rushed to say with an apologetic smile, Master, it's like this. Like what? Xiaohua glanced at Xiang Yang helplessly. You brat, you acted on your own again. Hee, yes, I hope Master can understand. Xiang Yang explained the matter, then finally said, this matter isn't much, so disciple didn't report it to Master, only saying that little junior brother was cultivating in seclusion. Damn it. Xiaohua scolded with a smile, this brat is indeed cultivating in seclusion, you're right. Hee, seeing Xiaohua happy, Xiang Yang was also happy. He said, Grandmaster Zhenyi didn't make things difficult for little junior brother, so isn't this matter over? What's a year's worth? It can't compare to little junior brother stepping into the 11th layer of aura refining in 2 months. Of course. Xiaohua looked helplessly at him, then asked, Grandmaster Zhenyi really didn't make things difficult for you? He's a bit of a vengeful person. No, how could he make things difficult for disciple? Xiaohua shook his head with a smile. Disciple just entered the sect, isn't it normal to make some mistakes occasionally? That's good. Xiaohua looked helplessly at Zhuo Minghui, then said, your master's wife originally wanted to give you a meeting gift. She found medicinal pills with great difficulty from a senior sister in Mythical Thunder Palace, wanting you to use them to break through to the 11th layer of aura refining, but you made your master's wife work for nothing. Thank you for your concern, master's wife. Xiaohua's heart warmed, and he stepped forward to bow and thank her. Child, why are you still being so polite? Zhuo Minghui waved her hand to help Xiaohua up, then said, you're the only child in myriad Thunder Valley. If we don't think of you, who else can we think of? Xiaohua sweated, somewhat embarrassed. No matter what, he was 25 years old, but in their mouths, he was actually a child. But when he thought about it, they said he was over 100 years old. If he wasn't a child, then what was he? This vitality assimilation pill was given to 10th layer qi refining disciples by the Imperial Thunder sect. It's not suitable for you now. A hint of awkwardness flashed across Zhuo Minghui's eyes. Then, she smiled and said, after a few days, Mistress will go to distant Thunder Palace and see if they have any extra energy-gathering pills. Absorption pill. Soul-gathering pill. Xiaohua inwardly muttered, "Motherfucker, it's really good to have a sect. I only know about the Peiyuan pill, but who would have thought that they have different pills for each level? Moreover, they even say that there are examples." Xiaohua said with a smile, "There's no need to trouble yourself. Master's wife, you can just give the absorption pill to disciple. Don't forget, your disciple is a rogue cultivator and has never taken this soul-gathering pill before. Taking it now will have some effect." This. Zhuo Minghui turned around helplessly. He waved his hand helplessly and said, "Give it to him. He has more experience in taking medicinal pills than we do. Don't worry about him." Zhuo Minghui clapped her hand and took out 3 jade bottles from her storage bag. She said in a low voice, "Xiaohua, you haven't taken this medicinal pill before. Don't be in a hurry to take a complete one." First, Zhuo Minghui actually told Xiaohua the taboo of taking the absorption pill bit by bit. Xiaohua listened to her long-winded speech, but in his heart, he enjoyed it very much. He smiled slightly and nodded from time to time. In the end, Zhuo Minghui still said apologetically, "In the end, this absorption pill isn't suitable for you. Mistress, you'd better take a look at the energy-gathering pill. You're about to reach the 12th layer of the aura-refining realm. Medicinal pills are indispensable. Alas, unfortunately, Master doesn't know how to refine pills. Xiang Yang and Qing Lian also don't know how to refine pills. Only your mistress knows a little, otherwise." He waved his hand helplessly and said. Xiaohua's heart moved. He said with a smile, "I wonder if mistress has the pill formulas for the absorption pill or the energy-gathering pill." "Huh? What, you know how to refine pills?" He stared helplessly, then said with pleasant surprise. "Master thinks too highly of disciple." Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand, then said in a low voice, "Disciple feels that. Disciple has been guarding the Eastern Ridge's medicinal garden. There's nothing else, but the spiritual plants, aren't there a lot? Disciple also just received a lot of seeds from the Lightning Flash Hall. Disciple will first plant the pill formulas for the absorption pill and the energy-gathering pill. When the time comes, mistress can take the spiritual plants to exchange for medicinal pills. Wouldn't that be? Ah. Helplessly stared blankly at first, then he looked at Xiaohua and laughed sinisterly. Only Xiang Yang slightly frowned. "Little junior brother. I'm afraid this isn't appropriate, right?" "What's inappropriate?" Helplessly scolded, "According to your thinking, if you can't even get a single hair, who will refine pills and make talismans? Damn it, when can Xiaohua build his foundation?" "Master." Xiang Yang felt very wronged. Little junior brother just made a mistake. Don't make another mistake. You. Helplessly jumped up and said angrily, "It's you. You can only stay in the early stage of the foundation building realm. They. Husband." Zhuo Minghui also stood up with a whoosh and said angrily, "That child Xiang Yang is right. What are you shouting for?" Helplessly, he glanced at his angry wife. His eyes turned, and his expression immediately changed. He said, "Your husband is only teaching Xiang Yang to be more flexible. My voice is just a bit loud. I'm not shouting anything. Master is teaching disciples. Mistress, please take a seat first." Xiang Yang also said quickly. Zhuo Minghui glared at Xiang Yang and sat back in her chair. Yan Qinglian, on the other hand, had been sitting beside Xiang Yang all along. She lowered her head and didn't say a word. Master, eldest senior brother, you don't need to worry. The Eastern Ridge's medicinal garden only has blazed dawn grass. The other spiritual plants are all barren. No one has ever paid attention to them. Disciple will find a place to plant the spiritual plants first." Hearing this, Zhuo Minghui pondered for a moment, then got up and returned to the back of the cave. After a moment, she came out again. Holding a jade slip, She handed it to Yan Qinglian and said, Qinglian, this is the prescription for several kinds of medicinal pills for aura refining disciples to take. Make a copy of it and give it to Xiaohua. Let him get some spiritual plants. If I go to senior sister empty-handed, I really don't have any face. Disciple obeys. Only now did Yan Qinglian raise her head and respectfully receive the jade slip. All right. Helplessly waving her hand, she pointed to her right and said, Xiaohua, from now on, you can sit here. Yes. Xiaohua waited for Yan Qinglian to bring over a chair, then carefully sat down. Helplessly, she looked at Xiaohua with satisfaction and said, now that you're already in the 11th layer of aura refining, it's time to start building your foundation. One is the problem of divine sense. If you still haven't developed divine sense by the time you reach the 12th layer of aura refining, you'll have to immediately use our sect's secret technique to stimulate divine sense. The later it is, the less likely you'll be able to build your foundation. Of course, there's no need to stimulate divine sense too early. Although those disciples of influential clans in the 11th layer of aura refining have divine sense, their future prospects are limited. You're a loose cultivator. From what I see, that heavenly laws embodiment technique of yours doesn't involve divine sense. I'm afraid it'll be a bit troublesome. Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He was a bit anxious. Of course, he didn't have a Muwan palace, so how could he develop divine sense? Should I tell Master? Xiaohua was a bit hesitant. Just as he was hesitating, he helplessly said, although our sect's secret technique is different from other sects, in the end, it's all related to the rainbow epiphyllum. I'll give you the secret technique now, so you can familiarize yourself with it in advance. As for the item, when you reach the peak of the 11th layer of aura refining, Master will go to the Thunder Palace to take a look for you. This item should be available in the Qiqiao Pavilion. However, it's hard to say how old it is. Master, the older the rainbow epiphyllum, the better, right? Xiaohua's heart stirred. He put the matter of the Muwan Palace aside and asked urgently. Of course. The older the rainbow epiphyllum is, the greater the possibility of developing divine sense. Helplessly and somewhat pensively, he said, it's just that there are a lot of disciples entering our Imperial Thunder sect this time. I'm afraid that the rainbow epiphyllum in the Qiqiao Pavilion won't be enough. We should act first to gain the upper hand. If we can't, then we'll have the disciples go to the major markets to buy them. Our Imperial Thunder sect is such a large sect, how could we not find these things? Zhuo Minghui smiled and said, if we can't find them, then we can use other spiritual plants. That's true. Helplessly, he rubbed his hands and said, your husband is afraid of delaying Xiaohua's cultivation. I'm a bit worried about personal gains and losses. On the side, Xiaohua also secretly nodded and once again sighed with emotion, it's really good to have the support of a sect. Helplessly, he thought for a moment and said, after the matter of divine sense, it's the problem of cultivation methods. Xiaohua, your master and your eldest senior brother both cultivate the 10,000 June Thunderbolt cultivation method. This cultivation method can withstand the heavenly thunder of the 10,000 Thunder Valley and advance very quickly. It can be considered a medium-level cultivation method of our Thunderous Palace. Zhuo Minghui asked from the side, that's strange. If you don't let Xiaohua cultivate 10,000 June Thunderbolt, what other cultivation method can he cultivate? He. Helplessly, with a mysterious expression, he pointed his finger and said, Xiaohua, show your sect master's command token to your master's wife. Yes, master. Xiaohua was secretly happy in his heart and took out the sect master's command token. It really is the sect master's command token. Zhuo Minghui suddenly realized and said with a smile, looks like it's the sect master's reward for Xiaohua. Exactly. Helplessly, he said in a low voice, in order to reward Xiaohua for sending the thunder-devouring bead back to the Imperial Thunder sect, the sect master specially issued a sect master's command that Xiaohua can cultivate all the cultivation methods of the 8 great thunder palaces. Ah! Zhuo Minghui and Yan Qinglian were both shocked and they heard this for the first time. What a pity. I don't know when this brat will be able to give me my lightning evasion technique. Helplessly, he sighed. Hee, master, don't worry. Disciple will go to the Heavenly Thunder Palace and get that cultivation method for master. Xiaohua pretended to get up. Nonsense, quickly sit down. Helplessly, despite knowing Xiaohua's pretense, he still scolded with a smile, it won't be too late to find it when you go to choose your cultivation method. And, since Xiaohua has this good fortune, then this cultivation method must be carefully chosen. Yan Qinglian nodded and said. Sigh, that's right. When there was no cultivation method, Xiaohua had to worry about finding one. Now that there is a cultivation method, he has to worry about finding a suitable cultivation method. Therefore, everyone has their own worries and every family has their own difficulties. This is indeed reasonable. Chapter 1566. Helplessly looking at Xiaohua, he said in a deep voice, My Imperial Thunder Sect's cultivation methods are generally divided into 3 grades. The first grade is the high-grade cultivation method, which is cultivated by those with thunder attribute physiques. Not only is the progress very fast, but the power of the cultivation method is also very strong. The second grade is the middle-grade cultivation method, which is prepared for those with fire attribute physiques. The progress should also be okay, but the power of the cultivation method is reduced. I'm afraid it can't compare to the high-grade thunder attribute cultivation method. The third grade is naturally the low-grade cultivation method, which is prepared for disciples with other attribute physiques. The cultivation speed is not fast, and the power is also ordinary. Of course, there are some disciples with rare attribute physiques. Their cultivation methods are also high-grade, but these disciples are extremely rare even in my Imperial Thunder sect, so there's no need to talk about them. Xiaohua said with a frown, Disciple is of the fire attribute, so I naturally have to cultivate a fire attribute cultivation method. This can only be a middle-grade cultivation method, what else is there to choose? You idiot, if there isn't, why would Master say this? Helplessly scolded, what Master said above is only the general idea. My Imperial Thunder Sect's 8 Great Thunder Palaces cultivation methods are all hidden in the inheritance pavilions. And, there are also the cultivation methods obtained by the previous masters when they were traveling outside. You, a little loose cultivator, can obtain 3 kinds of cultivation methods, how can my Imperial Thunder Sect's cultivation methods be less than yours? Yes, disciple understands. Xiaohua understood helplessness's temper, he lowered his head and said, Looks like my Thunderclap Palace has a high-grade fire attribute cultivation method? That's natural, otherwise Master and you. Halfway through speaking, helplessness realized that he had just said it, he coughed and scolded, You idiot, if our Thunderclap Palace doesn't have it, you can go to the other 7 Great Thunder Palaces. Master wants to tell you, especially the Heavenly Thunder Palace, there are many good things inside. But disciple can't tell if that cultivation method is good or bad. Xiaohua somewhat scratched his head. Damn it, Xiangyang, copy the beginning of the 10,000 Thunderbolts cultivation method for Xiaohua to see. Now that he knows what a middle-grade cultivation method looks like, is it still hard to find a high-grade cultivation method? Helplessness was somewhat impatient. Master, this isn't good. Xiangyang anxiously said, My Imperial Thunder Sect has its own rules. Xiaohua can only receive Master's personal guidance when he reaches the foundation establishment stage. Moreover, if this foundation establishment cultivation method is seen by little junior brother earlier, I'm afraid it will be detrimental to his cultivation. What kind of bullshit rules are these? Which of those core formation martial uncles didn't casually give pointers to their aura refining disciples? He mumbled helplessly, Besides, I didn't give him any pointers. I only asked you to show him a cultivation technique. Oh right, after you read Xiaohua's cultivation technique, you must not cultivate it. Your cultivation realm is insufficient. If you forcefully cultivate it, you will definitely perish. Xiao Hua's heart trembled, and he bowed and said, "Disciple understands." Soon after, he helplessly hesitated for a moment before saying, "I've already told you about the cultivation method and divine sense. The only one left is the great circle of the aura refining realm." Xiao Hua was an individual cultivator, so his cultivation method was lacking. From the first layer of the aura refining realm to the 12th layer of the aura refining realm, he didn't know how many areas needed to be perfected. "Sai, Master is also worried about you. How about this, Xiao Hua, we don't need the great circle of the aura refining realm. You only need to cultivate to the peak of the aura refining realm and break through to the foundation establishment stage. Then you can take a foundation building pill. We only need the small circle of the aura refining realm." This. Xiao Hua also hesitated. After all, didn't he go to the Fu clan to look for the Qingyun talisman? He wanted to cultivate to the great circle of the aura refining realm. Now that he had the method to refine the Qingyun talisman and the cultivation method, if he didn't cultivate to the great circle of the aura refining realm, his heart would be really uncomfortable. "Hee, Master, you've forgotten. Little junior brother is a loose cultivator. I'm afraid he has never heard of the great circle of the aura refining realm." Xiang Yang helplessly reminded Xiao Hua when he saw him hesitate. "Oh, right." Xiao Hua helplessly slapped his forehead. Just as he was about to explain, Xiao Hua said, "Disciple understands what the great circle of the aura refining realm is. However, Disciple believes that since he can reach the great circle of the aura refining realm, Disciple can't cultivate without reason. If Disciple really can't cultivate, Disciple can just open the Qingyun talisman and directly enter the foundation establishment stage, right? How can it be that simple?" Xiao Hua helplessly smiled bitterly. Foundation establishment isn't just about cultivation realm, it's also about fate. If you miss the opportunity to enter the foundation establishment stage, it will be even harder to enter the foundation establishment stage. Ah. There's such a thing. Xiao Hua was astonished. Hee, isn't that right? Look at your eldest martial brother, he still doesn't know. Xiao Hua helplessly looked at Xiang Yang and said, "Yes, what Master said is the truth. Little junior brother, you still have to think twice." Xiang Yang nodded. Xiao Hua thought for a moment. In his mind, Li Zongbao's great circle of the aura refining realm appeared. His eyes flashed with a trace of unswerving determination. He smiled and said, "Disciple still wants to try. If it really doesn't work, Disciple will open the Qingyun talisman." Xiao Hua helplessly turned his head to look at Zhuo Minghui. The latter's eyes were filled with admiration as she slightly nodded. "Ah, okay." Xiao Hua helplessly sighed and said, "In a few days, I'll go to Qiqiao Pavilion and help you fight for the Qingyun talisman." "Qingyun talisman? Fight for it?" Xiao Hua was somewhat puzzled. Xiang Yang smiled and said, "The Qingyun talisman and the Qingyun talisman have roughly the same effect, only the names are different. As for fighting for it, it's because the Qingyun talisman is extremely difficult to refine. If it's not an outstanding disciple in the sect, it won't be given. When the time comes, whether or not little junior brother can get the Qingyun talisman is still uncertain." Afterwards, Xiao Hua accompanied Xiao Hua and Zhuo Minghui to talk for a while. Then, Xiao Hua followed Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian back to their immortal's cave. Xiang Yang was very concerned about Xiao Hua's cultivation. He asked Xiao Hua some details about his cultivation, but what could Xiao Hua say? Xiang Yang listened for a while and couldn't understand anything. He had no choice but to talk about some of his experiences when he was cultivating his foundation. This experience was the most precious. When Xiao Hua was a loose cultivator, he definitely wouldn't have heard about it. Almost every word Xiang Yang said hit Xiao Hua's heart, causing him to scratch his head in excitement. Naturally, Xiao Hua also asked a lot of questions. His questions were also very sharp. Sometimes, it was difficult for Xiang Yang to answer. He even called Yan Qinglian, who was in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm, to answer. Unknowingly, the two of them talked for an entire night. When dawn broke the next day, Xiaohua reluctantly said goodbye and prepared to return to the eastern ridge. At this time, Yan Qinglian took out 4 booklets and gave them to him. At the top was the refining method of the invisibility talisman. Yan Qinglian said very gratefully, "Little junior brother, this invisibility talisman has already been copied into a jade slip. I'm currently comprehending it. Unfortunately, I don't have the blood and fur of a lizard beast, so I'm afraid I can't refine it successfully. However, I still have to thank little junior brother for being able to learn this invisibility talisman." Xiaohua promptly waved his hand. "Senior sister has helped little junior brother so much. This invisibility talisman is nothing. When little junior brother gets a lizard beast for senior sister to refine into the invisibility talisman, it won't be too late to thank little junior brother then." Yan Qinglian covered her mouth and said, "Then senior sister will wait for little junior brother's lizard beast." The second booklet was, of course, the pill recipes for the soul assimilating pill and soul gathering pill. Zhuo Minghui didn't say that she would copy them completely, while Xiaohua only said that he would look for the spiritual grasses. Logically speaking, Yan Qinglian only needed to copy what kind of spiritual grasses were needed to refine these 2 pills, but she had completely copied down these 2 pill recipes. Xiaohua only needed to open the booklet to know what kind of spiritual grasses were needed to refine these 2 pills. The third booklet, needless to say, was precisely the first mnemonic chant of the Foundation building cultivation technique 10,000 June Thunderbolt and the method to circulate true qi through the meridians. Although the copy of this cultivation technique wasn't complete, the mnemonic chant and the initial refinement of the meridians and true qi were all clearly explained. Xiang Yang's face was also somewhat awkward. He said in a low voice, "Little junior brother, the aura refining stage is the process of cultivators drawing spiritual energy into their body and refining it into true qi for their own use. As for the foundation building stage, true qi no longer exists. Instead, it liquefies and forms the so-called true essence. This true essence is the same as ordinary flowing water. No matter whether its quality or structure, it's not something true qi can compare to. Only by cultivating to the foundation building stage can one truly step into the realm of cultivation. Only then can one truly control magic tools and magic weapons and truly mobilize the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Therefore, this foundation building cultivation technique is completely different from the aura refining stage cultivation technique. Little junior brother can only use it as a reference and absolutely cannot practice it." As for the fourth booklet, it was even more beyond Xiaohua's expectations. It was actually a secret technique of the Imperial Thunder sect. It was a secret technique to refine the rainbow epiphyllum and other objects to stimulate divine sense. However, just as he said, Yan Qinglian had already prepared it. She was truly a good senior sister-in-law. Xiaohua took the 4 booklets and stored them in his space. He cupped his hands in thanks and said, "Little junior brother understands. If you have any questions, little junior brother will send a sound transmitting talisman." "Good. You should cultivate properly. Elder brother won't disturb you. There's still a year before the next Flame Dawn grass submission. Just remember it when the time comes." Xiang Yang said with a smile. "Don't, eldest senior brother. If you have something to do, you should go more often. Little junior brother is very lonely there," Xiaohua hurriedly said. Xiang Yang curled his lips and repeatedly said that he didn't believe him. Yan Qinglian took out 3 jade bottles from her storage pouch and said with a smile, "Little junior brother's monthly allowance is gone. I'm afraid that master's wife won't be able to find soul-gathering pills for the time being. Senior sister-in-law still has a few soul assimilation pills. They were also taken from junior sister Thunder Palace. You should take them for now. Senior sister-in-law." Xiaohua was really moved. Since he could remember, only Shang Huaming's 3 senior brothers had given him such care. And that bastard Zhang Qingshao even coveted his Peiyuan pill. Unfortunately, even if he wanted to give these pills to them now, he couldn't find them. Take them for now. Xiang Yang waved his hand at this time. Don't be a little girl. If you know how to cultivate diligently and reach foundation establishment a step earlier and win glory for our myriad Thunder Valley, elder brother and your senior sister-in-law will be satisfied. N. Xiaohua took the pills and secretly made up his mind. When he returned to the eastern ridge, he would immediately look for earth fire, immediately refine pills, immediately cultivate, immediately, and a lot of things immediately. He must reach foundation establishment as soon as possible. He couldn't disappoint those who cared about him, and he couldn't let those who hurt him be happy. Thinking of foundation establishment, Xiaohua's eyes narrowed. He thought of 100 Herbs Gate. Damn it, Jiang Jiantong, just you wait. I'll be back soon. You've seized my Shang Huaming's place, so you must spit it out bit by bit. Xiaohua thought. He cupped his hands and bid farewell to Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian, then flew to the Eastern Ridge Medicine Garden. With the identity token, Xiaohua no longer had the chance to get lost. According to the map in the token and his own little bright spot, Xiaohua easily flew to the Eastern Ridge. Chapter 1567. As expected, the eastern mountain range was far away, and the myriad Thunder Valley was even more remote. The two were not in the same direction. Although it was a bit closer than the Thunder Palace, it still made Xiaohua fly for a long time. Seeing that the area ahead looked very barren and was not a good place to go, Xiaohua's heart trembled, and he thought, I'm afraid I'm lost again. Then, Xiaohua hurriedly took out the identity tablet and opened the map, and the direction should be correct. This should be a dangerous place of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Xiaohua had just thought of this when a deafening roar came from the mountain range to his right. Xiaohua's body tensed up. That roar seemed to have the effect of confinement. Xiaohua's flight technique lost its effect and he immediately fell from the sky. Xiaohua's heart also jumped, as if it was going to jump out. Damn it! Xiaohua was shocked. On one hand, he shook his arms, trying his best to break free from the confinement around his body. On the other hand, he felt helpless and used the method to resist the sound of thunder that he had just taught. That method was indeed useful. Just as Xiaohua broke free from the confinement around his body, his heartbeat also returned to normal. However, without waiting for Xiaohua to fly up again, an emotionless divine sense quickly swept over, Foundation Establishment Spirit Beast. Xiaohua was shocked. He didn't even have the time to be shocked. He urged his magic power and immediately used the Earth Escape technique. Like a stone, his whole body quickly fell down and disappeared without a trace. That divine sense followed Xiaohua into the ground, but it immediately withdrew, as if it had lost interest in Xiaohua and withdrew like a waterfall. After escaping very far underground, Xiaohua felt that the divine sense didn't chase after him again. Only then did he shake off the sweat on his forehead, and thought in a panic, did I make a mistake? Every time I come out, I have to run into something. Last time, it was a fight between two late-stage Foundation Establishment cultivators, and I was caught in the crossfire. But fortunately, I was lucky and became a fisherman. This time, I directly ran into a spirit beast. I just flew past a dangerous place. Alas, why is there no safe place in the Imperial Thunder Sect? In the future, I'll have to stay far away from these dangerous places. Xiaohua escaped from the ground, identified the direction, and fled without a trace. By the time Xiaohua fully utilized his flight technique and flew back to the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden, the sky had already turned completely dark. Even though the night was nothing to cultivators, Xiaohua still felt somewhat cold in his heart. Only after he opened the array formation and returned to his abode did Xiaohua feel slightly safer. But immediately after, Xiaohua stomped his feet. What is this Thunder Flash Hall's deacon doing? Even the array formation token of the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden had been taken away by someone else and he didn't even know about it. Damn it, I don't know when they'll be able to do it. You're all fine, but you're making me worry here. Sigh, there's nothing I can do. Xiaohua raised his head and sighed, but soon after, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He put his palms together and muttered in the direction of the myriad Thunder Valley, Master, this disciple didn't call you elder, and it's not that I'm disrespectful. Who told you to have such a strange name? Afterwards, Xiaohua released his perception and looked all around. Seeing that there wasn't anything abnormal, he placed the warning talismans in the abode and sat on a chair in the abode to ponder. This Eastern Ridge's array formation isn't very safe now. I have to think of a way myself. Evosion's array formation is pretty good. It can even trap late-stage foundation establishment Ken Mingwei. I have to hurry and see how this array formation is arranged. Xiaohua was thinking about taking out Evosion's things from the space, but just as his mind entered the space, he remembered that other foundation establishment cultivators used divine sense. He didn't have divine sense and only had perception, so how could he control it? Moreover, he didn't seem to know the method to control divine sense. Moreover, he didn't have any method to control divine sense, so how could he? So I had the foresight to ask eldest senior brother to give me a method to control magic tools. Magic tools are controlled by divine sense. Even if there isn't a method to control them, it will definitely be involved. With this young master's intelligence, how could I not know how to use it? Thinking, Xiaohua took out the booklet that Xiang Yang gave him. Sure enough, not only did the booklet talk about the expedient method without divine sense, it also talked about the method to control magic tools in great detail. Although it didn't specifically teach about divine sense, Xiaohua was still beaming with joy. That's right. Didn't eldest senior brother also give me the method to read jade slips? These two things can be used for reference. These days, Xiaohua took a lot of things from Xiang Yang, so he was somewhat confused. Fortunately, this young master has a master now, so I don't have to worry about these things. I have an honest and considerate eldest senior brother and eldest senior sister-in-law who have already prepared these incantations. I only need to properly practice them. Soon after, Xiaohua's heart warmed again. It was as if even a black shadow couldn't be seen as black. Xiaohua wasn't in a hurry to see how to control magic tools. First, he took out the method to use divine sense and carefully studied it. Then, he compared the method to read jade slips with divine sense. Late at night, he returned to his cave and sat cross-legged on a praying mat, cultivating heavenly law's embodiment technique. The next day, Xiaohua opened his eyes and checked his cultivation. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. In the past few days, he had been refining fire essence flame crystals, so his cultivation increased at a godly speed. Now, he didn't have any suitable medicinal pills to take, nor did he have any fire essence flame crystals to refine. His cultivation increased at a tortoise's speed, returning to the first layer of aura refining at Yellow Flower Ridge. It wasn't that it wasn't increasing, it was just too slow. Xiaohua still had some Qingyi pills in his space, but they were no longer suitable for the 11th layer of aura refining. He did have a lot of foundation establishment pills, but they were reserved for when he reached foundation establishment. Didn't you hear Wu Qi say that? Foundation establishment was just a matter of opportunity. If he didn't grasp it, it would be difficult to step foot in the future. Soon after, Xiaohua didn't delay. He flew up and first found a pill room in Eastern Ridge. The pill room wasn't too far from the cave. The earth fire inside was sealed with a spell, just like the Fu clan. However, the seal was extremely firm. From the looks of it, it was at least the work of a foundation establishment cultivator. Xiaohua was helpless. He spent a tremendous amount of effort to use the tip of the devil's spear to loosen the seal. However, from the looks of it, there was still some distance before the seal was broken. Fortunately, the seal didn't automatically recover under the burning of the earth fire. Otherwise, Xiaohua would have vomited blood. Soon after, Xiaohua found a slightly suitable place and released the puppet. It flattened the mountainous area, tidied up the medicinal garden, and took the seeds of the spiritual herbs. At the very least, he had to do something to save face. For more than 10 days, Xiaohua didn't do anything else but tidied up these things. However, it could be considered as a harvest. The earth-fire seal was finally broken through after his painstaking efforts. The spiritual herbs were also planted in his space. Of course, they were planted earlier than these. As for the method of using divine sense, Xiaohua was even more delighted. His perception was actually the same as divine sense and could be controlled by him. Needless to say, he could already read the jade slips. It was even possible to write things in the jade slips. Moreover, he also thoroughly understood the method of refining magic tools. The only thing left was to refine the magic tools in the space. Of course, his current focus wasn't on magic tools. He first put these aside and looked through Zhenxie's things. Zhenxie was a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. There were many things in his storage pouch. Aside from the spiritual herbs that couldn't compare to Xiaohua's, he had more spirit stones and medicinal pills than Xiaohua. Moreover, Zhenxie's storage pouch also had many jade slips and a small number of magic tools. As for the yellow talismans and other commonly used items, needless to say, there were even a few rare spiritual talismans. However, Xiaohua completely ignored all of this. He only took out those jade slips and looked through them one by one. The jade slips contained incomplete cultivation methods, pill recipes, talisman crafting methods, spell techniques commonly used by foundation establishment cultivators, and so on. There were also many that Xiaohua didn't understand. These were all thrown to the side by him. It wasn't until he picked up a jade slip that Xiaohua's furrowed brows relaxed. This jade slip recorded the arrangement and control method of the heavenly fire array. Of course, the jade slip didn't only record the heavenly fire array. There were also some basic formation principles and other formations. However, Xiaohua didn't want to study it in detail at this time. He put the other jade slips that he had seen and hadn't seen into the space. Only then did he carefully look at the heavenly fire array. The great fire array looked very difficult to understand. After looking at it for several days, Xiaohua suddenly realized that the Great Fire Array was essentially the same as the Warning Amulet. The difference was that the Warning Amulet had different runes written on the child amulet in advance and then used the parent amulet to control it. The Great Fire Array was composed of array discs and array flags. The runes were written on the array discs and array flags in advance. The array discs were the child amulets which were arranged in secret places. The array flags were the parent amulets which were used to activate and control the array. Understanding this, Xiaohua still felt somewhat confused. It seems, the array shouldn't be like this, right? But, what is this array? He couldn't remember. Alright, this young master will first understand this heavenly fire array and protect myself. Xiaohua abandoned the idea of getting to the bottom of things, and specifically pondered on how to arrange the heavenly fire array. In the blink of an eye, several dozen days passed, and Xiaohua barely understood this array. Soon after, Xiaohua left the cave and walked to a suitable location. With a wave of his hand, he took out a shiny formation plate. He closed his eyes and pondered for a moment. His hand formed a seal, and along with the movement of Xiaohua's fingers, the surrounding slightly violent fire attribute spiritual energy was sucked into the seal. When the seal was formed, Xiaohua's face was deathly pale. His hand felt as if it was holding a heavy object, and every wave was extremely difficult. In the end, Xiaohua finished forming the hand seals. He clenched his teeth and urged the remaining magic power in his body. He flung his hand and hit the formation plate. The formation plate ignited with a tang sound. It was like an orange-red flame that was extremely enchanting as it floated in the air. Moreover, Along with the dancing of the flame, the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth was also attracted, and the flame became increasingly bigger. Chapter 1568. Xiaohua squinted his eyes. He took out a few Qingyi pills and threw them into his mouth. He operated Heavenly Law's embodiment technique to refine the medicinal power and recover his magic power. When his magic power recovered a bit, Xiaohua urged his magic power again. He pointed at the orange flame and shouted, "Quick!" Suddenly, the flame seemed to have gained sentience as it landed on the ground and disappeared. Once the flames disappeared, Xiaohua also sat on the ground. He gasped for breath and said, "Damn it, this magic formation really isn't something an aura refining cultivator like me can make. I just finished making a magic plate and my magic power is already not enough. Wouldn't it take me several days to finish setting up the entire heavenly fire formation? Hehe, but in this formation that can kill a foundation establishment late-stage cultivator, won't I be at ease?" As a result, Xiaohua set up a formation plate every day. Then, the magic power in his body would be exhausted. Then, he would close his eyes and cultivate to recover his magic power. The next day, he would set up another formation plate. After several days, the entire heavenly fire formation was completely set up. Because the location of the earth fire was not very far from the cave, Xiaohua considered safety and placed an abandoned alchemy room in the formation. Hehe. After he finished setting it up, Xiaohua was once again exhausted and had no magic power left. He could only clap his hands foolishly and say to himself, "This is a formation, I'm really a genius." However, when Xiaohua recovered his magic power, he was stunned when he used his magic power to urge the formation flag. The entire heavenly fire formation couldn't be activated. Needless to say, there was definitely a problem with Xiaohua's arrangement. In the following 10 days, Xiaohua compared the jade slip and carefully thought about his method. He constantly improved it. Finally, on a night when dusk was rising, he finished setting up the entire heavenly fire formation. The instant he finished setting it up, Xiaohua sensed that the fire-attributed spiritual energy of heaven and earth around the heavenly fire formation was suddenly sucked into the formation plate. It overflowed like flowing water in the formation plate. When it reached a certain equilibrium, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gradually disappeared. The formation plate's previous abnormality also disappeared. Wonderful! Xiaohua clapped his hands. This was exactly the same as Jinxie's arrangement. However, right when Xiaohua circulated his magic energy and activated the formation with a wave of the flag according to the jade slip, the extremely enormous suction force on the flag had absorbed all of Xiaohua's magic energy in a short moment, and not a single drop remained. Fortunately, Xiaohua's magic power was just enough for him to wave the spell flag once. Looking at the orange flame that appeared in the place he wanted to see with the wave of the spell flag in his hand, Xiaohua's battered heart was revived. However, after resting for a while, Xiaohua once again had some doubts. He knew that his magic power was different from ordinary cultivators, it was much more vigorous. Although he was currently in the middle stage of the 11th layer of the aura refining realm, Xiaohua believed that his magic power was absolutely comparable to the peak of the 12th layer of the aura refining realm. Thinking about all the pills he had taken and the fire essence flame crystals he had refined, Xiaohua would naturally think so. In fact, he even believed that his magic power was not much weaker than an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. After all, these days, Xiaohua often dealt with early-stage foundation establishment cultivators, especially Xiang Yang. In Xiaohua's eyes, Xiang Yang's magic power, to be honest, was really, since that was the case, then there was no reason for Xiaohua to wave the formation flag only once. Even if this formation flag was used by a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator, the disparity couldn't be that great. Thinking about how Jinxie had easily waved the formation flag that day and freely controlled the formation, Xiaohua's heart was filled with doubts. Could it be that there are still many secrets in this formation that I can't figure out? Xiaohua was very puzzled. He flipped through the jade slip again, but where were these records? Forget it, let's talk about it later. Xiaohua put down his doubts. Next, Xiaohua didn't stop. He first took the vitality absorption pill and tempered it. Sure enough, this vitality absorption pill was worthy of being a medicinal pill designated by the Imperial Thunder sect. Its effect was not comparable to low-level medicinal pills like the Clear Breeze pill. Xiaohua felt that his cultivation had improved again. Since he knew that this vitality absorption pill was useful, then the so-called vitality gathering pill must also be effective. Thus, Xiaohua went to the pill room and took out the three-legged vermilion bird phoenix pattern furnace. While warming up the pill furnace, he took out the pill recipe that Yan Qinglian had copied and examined it. After he finished reading, his brows slightly wrinkled. With a wave of his hand, he took out another jade slip. This jade slip turned out to be Zhenxie's. It also contained pill recipes and alchemy techniques. Zhenxie was originally an alchemist who refined the clear flower pill, so he naturally had these things on him. Xiaohua didn't look at it carefully. After all, what was recorded in this jade slip were basically medicinal pills used by Foundation establishment cultivators. There were only a few records of medicinal pills used by high-level qi refinement cultivators like the Vitality Absorption Pill and the Vitality Congregation Pill. Only after seeing that the things inside were the same as what was recorded did Xiaohua put away the jade slip and booklet. He frowned and pondered. The method of refining the Vitality Absorption Pill is different from the method of refining the Clear Pleasure Pill. There are many areas where the difference is very large. My methods are suitable for refining the Clear Pleasure Pill, but I don't know if they can be used when refining the Vitality Absorption Pill. This Vitality Absorption Pill's main ingredient also contains the Vitality Absorption fruit. I'm afraid it's about the same as refining the Peiyuan Pill. Of course, the about the same in Xiaohua's heart was referring to his own refining techniques. He had a lot of spiritual herbs in his space, and the main ingredients and supplementary ingredients for refining the Vitality Absorption Pill were all present. Once the pill furnace was ready, Xiaohua began to refine the Vitality Absorption Pill. The refining room for the Vitality Absorption Pill was naturally complicated. It couldn't be mentioned in the same breath as the Clear Breeze Pill. However, with Xiaohua's experience of refining pills in the Fu clan's pill refining room, he gradually fumbled around. After more than 10 days of hard work, he finally succeeded in refining 4 medicinal pills in a furnace. After casting the cultivation technique into the pill furnace, Xiaohua took out the Vitality Absorption Pill given to him by Zhuo Minghui and put it into his mouth. He then operated his cultivation technique to refine the medicinal efficacy. Soon after, he took out the Vitality Absorption Pill given to him by Yan Qinglian and similarly refined it in his meridians. He then opened his eyes and said with a smile, "Sure enough, the Vitality Absorption Pills given to Master and Senior Sister-in-law are the same. I'm afraid this medicinal pill is the same as the Clear Flower Pill. Every year, there's a fixed alchemist who refines it and then distributes it to the aura refining disciples as a regular offering." Thinking up to this point, Xiaohua slapped his head and took out a jade bottle from his space. He thought to himself, this is young master's first month's regular offering at the Imperial Thunder sect. If it wasn't for eldest senior martial brother helping me receive it, I'm afraid I would have been punished and confiscated, right? Huh. This is also a Vitality Absorption Pill. Xiaohua took out the medicinal pill from the jade bottle and took a look. Soon after, he also took it. After a long while, the medicinal efficacy of the Vitality Absorption Pill was refined by him. Xiaohua opened his eyes and sneered, the medicinal efficacy of this Vitality Absorption Pill is inferior to the previous 2. I'm afraid it was refined by 2 different alchemists. Moreover, looking at how the medicinal efficacy is so far apart, not only is there a difference in the level of alchemy between the 2 alchemists, there's also a difference in their cultivation, right? Soon after, Xiaohua waved his hand and the jade bottle on the ground flew into his hand. He said with a smile, I wonder how much of a difference there is between young master's level and that of the Imperial Thunder Sex alchemists. However, after waiting for a moment, before Xiaohua had time to refine the medicinal efficacy, his face revealed a trace of amazement, as well as a trace of pleasant surprise. And it was a face full of pride. Damn it! Could it be that young master is an alchemist? After refining the medicinal efficacy of the vitality absorption pill, Xiaohua opened his eyes and immediately somersaulted several times in the air. How can the vitality absorption pill refined by myself be compared to the one refined by the Imperial Thunder Sex alchemists, by several times? How can the Imperial Thunder Sex alchemists endure this? Ha ha ha. Xiaohua laughed heartily. However, just as this laughter resounded through the pill refining room, it came to an abrupt stop. Xiaohua stared blankly on the spot. Soon after, Xiaohua's face revealed an expression of sudden realization. He jumped up from the ground and said loudly, I understand. Why is it that foundation establishment cultivators can easily set up formations, but I have to use so much effort to set them up? It turns out that it's just as eldest senior brother said. Foundation establishment cultivators have a lot of true qi in their meridians, but it's true essence. True essence is liquid true qi. No matter whether it's quality or quantity, it's not on the same level as true qi. And how can the magic power produced by true essence compare to the magic power produced by true qi? They're simply not on the same level. Moreover, I also understand what Master said before on Yellow Flower Ridge. Without a realm, even if one's magic power continuously increases, what's the use? The magic power casually used by a foundation establishment cultivator is more than the magic power of a qi refining cultivator. Moreover, Xiaohua laughed out loud. Moreover, how would I know what it is? I'm afraid that only when this young master enters foundation establishment will I know the specific difference, right? Damn it, this young master must enter foundation establishment. Xiaohua thought. He reached out and took out the vigorous thunderbolt cultivation technique. Although Xiang Yang repeatedly warned him not to read it too early, Xiaohua really couldn't help it. Of course, this foundation establishment cultivation technique was different from qi refining cultivation technique. The mnemonic chant was quite obscure, and Xiaohua didn't understand many parts of it. Fortunately, Xiaohua wasn't really cultivating right now. He just wanted to see how this cultivation technique was like in the end. He wanted to have a foundation in his heart so that he could go to the 8 Great Lightning Palaces Technique Inheritance Pavilion in the future to look for even higher level cultivation techniques. Although Vigorous Thunderbolt was different from Heavenly Law's embodiment technique, they both used meridians to temper the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Inside, there were naturally descriptions of meridians. However, after more than 10 days of reading and thinking, Xiaohua had some doubts. The meridians of this foundation establishment cultivation technique actually weren't connected to the meridians of the qi refining realm. This was naturally a very strange matter. Because among the qi refining cultivation techniques that Xiaohua had come into contact with, regardless of whether it was Death Flower Underworld, Raising Fire to the Heavens, or Heavenly Law's embodiment technique, the end of each layer of the cultivation technique was connected to the beginning of the next layer of the cultivation technique. In Xiaohua's understanding, a higher layer of cultivation technique was to break through the barriers between different meridians and use a new tempering method to temper even more spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the new meridians. Foundation establishment cultivation techniques were naturally to break through the barriers of new meridians after reaching the 12th layer of the qi refining realm, and then cultivate in the new meridians. Chapter 1569. Strange. Xiaohua scratched his head and thought to himself, if the 12th layer of qi refining is said to have completely refined the meridians, then, the meridians in Heavenly Law embodiment technique clearly haven't reached the end. It seems that there are still many more meridians in dragonization art. Why does Vigorous Thunderbolt require one to reopen different meridians in the lower dantian to cultivate? This was Xiao Hua. He was cultivating the dragonization art at the same time as cultivating a normal technique. Previously, he could sense the various meridians in the 11th layer of qi refining. Moreover, he also knew that there were many interconnected meridians around these meridians. If it was someone else, how could they know? Could it be, this heavenly law embodiment technique isn't a complete set of qi refining techniques? Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly thought of this. However, he immediately denied it. He had already read this technique from beginning to end. If it wasn't a complete technique, he would have already said it out loud. In other words, the possibility that Xiao Hua thought of didn't exist. Could it be, behind this heavenly law embodiment technique, there are still unrecorded techniques? Xiao Hua suddenly quivered. An even more outrageous thought appeared in his mind. Only this thought could explain Xiao Hua's perception of those meridians when cultivating the dragonization art. What's wrong with me? Is it the heart devil of the 11th layer of qi refining? After Xiao Hua's excitement, he immediately calmed down. Qi refining techniques had been cultivated for who knows how many years in the Xiaoyu continent. Who knows how many heavenly geniuses there were, and who knows how many people had extraordinary encounters. Everyone directly entered foundation establishment after reaching the 12th layer of qi refining. There had never been a person who cultivated to the 13th layer after reaching the 12th layer of qi refining. Maybe I'm ignorant and inexperienced. I've never heard of it. Maybe those people were all geniuses who achieved great magical powers. But there are no records of them in the ancient records. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua put these things down. Right now, he was still some distance away from the peak of the 11th layer of qi refining. There was no need to delve into it now. When he returned to Myriad Thunder Valley in the future, he would ask Xiang Yang or Helplessness. If not, he would go to Thunder Palace's Technique Imparting Pavilion to investigate. In the following 10 months, Xiao Hua wholeheartedly focused on refining pills, taking pills, and increasing his cultivation. While refining pills, he also began to practice the Thunderlight Evasion technique and the driving techniques of magic tools. It was precisely as Xiao Hua had expected earlier. This Thunderlight flight technique was extremely profound, and it wasn't something common flying techniques could compare to. The first step to cultivating the Thunderlight flight technique required one to possess a lightning attribute physique. Only with this physique would one be able to sense the lightning attribute's spirit energy within the spirit energy of heaven and earth, and only then would one be able to borrow the flexibility and strength of the lightning attribute's spirit energy to cultivate the flight technique. Fortunately, Xiao Hua had already practiced fire escape and earth escape. Although this lightning escape technique wasn't a pure 5 elements escape technique, it was still within the 5 elements. Therefore, Xiao Hua had some difficulties practicing it, but he still gradually learned it. Among them, what Xiao Hua didn't understand the most was that he was actually able to sense the lightning attribute's spiritual qi that troubled cultivators of other attributes. This was the most crucial step. As long as he took this step, his future path would be smooth and level. While Xiao Hua was practicing the lightning evasion technique in the eastern ridge, he was still thinking, could it be, because of the thunder-devouring bead? There are flashes of lightning in my space from time to time. Maybe it has something to do with this. As for whether it was true or not, what did it matter? Xiao Hua was already gradually getting familiar with the first level of the Thunderlight flight technique. Furthermore, although the common method of refining magic tools was convenient, it also had its disadvantages. Different cultivation levels could refine different magic tools. With Xiao Hua's cultivation level, he couldn't refine high-level magic tools. Not to mention the magic tools used by late Foundation establishment stage cultivators in Xiao Hua's space, even the Shadow Moon Xiao Hua that Ling Zhengyi gave him couldn't be refined. Xiao Hua used 10 months of effort to refine the triangular magic tool of Spirit Husbandry Sect and the palm-sized ring of Yan Yan Wei. The magic tool of Spirit Husbandry Sect was an offensive and defensive magic tool. It could use the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to attack, and it could also form a protective barrier around the user. The most special thing was that it could change the outer appearance of the cultivator and conceal the ripples of the cultivator's magic power, achieving the goal of concealment. Xiaohua didn't know the name of this magic tool. Since it was his, he naturally had to give it his own name. Xiaohua scratched his head and thought for a long time before naming it Yi Chen. As for the palm-sized ring, it didn't have any offensive or defensive abilities. The only thing it could do was to see through the 5 elements. Yan Yanwei relied on this thing to see through the restrictions set up by Blood Shadow and Xiaohua's figure underground. Xiaohua named it Observe. Naturally, Xiaohua had also thought of using these magic tools to activate the black iron needle. However, after looking at the sacrificial refining method and then looking at the trick behind the black iron needle, Xiaohua still decided to use the sacrificial refining method. In Xiaohua's space, there was a set of 2 soul-absorbing bells. Xiaohua felt that they were similar to the small hook's soul tool and wanted to refine them. Unfortunately, the common refining method in Xiaohua's hand wasn't effective. He probably needed the refining method specifically used by Xiao Nan's Qing family. Seeing that he had cultivated all the techniques he could in the past year, and that his heavenly reflection technique had just reached the peak of the 11th level of the Qi refinement realm, Xiaohua couldn't help but be overjoyed. It wasn't just his cultivation that was effective, Xiaohua's refining of medicinal pills was also very smooth. Now, he could already produce 24 soul-absorbing pills in one furnace, which was barely enough for Xiaohua's nighttime cultivation speed. During the day, Xiaohua could only refine medicinal pills while practicing lightning escape and familiarizing himself with the magic tools. In addition, Little Huang and Little Silver in the space had also changed a lot. Let's talk about Little Huang first. A year ago, after swallowing Ken Mingwei's primordial spirit, it had fallen into a deep sleep. While sleeping, Xiaohua could clearly sense that Little Huang's injuries had healed. Half a year ago, Little Huang had woken up. Although it hadn't fully recovered, it looked a lot more spirited and could already slowly fly around in the space. As for Little Silver, he had rendered meritorious service in saving Xiaohua's life last time. Even his sharp teeth had been grinded until they bled, so how could Xiaohua not be grateful? When Little Dusk slept, Little Silver only moved within a range of several zhang and never took half a step out of the minefield. However, Little Silver's nose kept sniffing the spirit herbs. It was just that without Little Huang's permission, Little Silver didn't dare steal any. It wasn't until Little Huang woke up and told Xiaohua about this that Xiaohua found out that Little Silver could eat spirit herbs. Wasn't that simple? Xiaohua might not be willing to part with spirit stones, but he had as many spirit herbs as he wanted in the space. Xiaohua took out a piece of the extremely vast medicinal field in the space. There were some ordinary spirit herbs inside, just that they had been growing for a long time. He had Little Silver look for food in this medicinal field. Little Silver was very happy. It scurried around the entire herb field and rolled around casually, eating until its little belly was round and full. Little Yellow was also very happy to see this. AI, it's so good to be able to cultivate in peace. Xiaohua looked around the space from time to time and sighed with emotion. This scene was something he hadn't dared imagine when he was an itinerant cultivator. Alright, I've now reached the peak of the 11th level of Qi refinement. It's time for me to make a trip back to Myriad Thunder Valley. Admittedly, there's a rainbow epiphyllum in my space, but Shifu needs to go to Shuttling Thunder Hall to ask for another one. It'll be a waste if I don't take it. Xiaohua thought to himself. Also, it's time to ask Shifu about the cultivation technique. Let's see if I can go to Martial Arts Pavilion to find it now. Just as Xiaohua was about to pack up and leave, he thought again. Good, I almost forgot. It's almost a year's time, and that senior brother Jinming who came to Eastern Ridge to pick Inflammation Dawn grass is coming again. If I run off now, won't he have to return empty-handed again? Thus, after Xiaohua picked enough Inflammation Dawn grass in advance, he calmly stayed in Eastern Ridge to refine pills and wait for Jinming's arrival. Almost a month's time passed. Sure enough, the command medallion in the space vibrated again. When Xiaohua slightly released the restriction on the formation, a crimson-red messaging talisman flew in front of Xiaohua's eyes. He's finally here. Xiaohua crushed the messaging talisman and flew into the air. He opened the formation and saw a thin and tall young cultivator with a trace of impatience on his face. He was precisely waiting in midair outside the formation. Xiaohua carefully sized him up. This cultivator looked to be about 27 or 28 years old. He had long and narrow cheeks, extremely small eyes, a pair of extremely light eyebrows, and a few black spots on his deathly pale face. When the cultivator saw Xiaohua come out to greet him, he didn't even salute. He very rudely called out, "Are you Xiaohua?" Xiaohua smiled and bowed. This disciple is indeed Xiaohua. Is senior brother Zhenming? Naturally it's I. Zhenming wasn't surprised. He sneered and said, if it wasn't for I's bad luck, who would come to this Eastern Ridge medicinal garden? Xiaohua smiled apologetically and said, this disciple was negligent last year and let senior brother Zhenming accompany me to receive punishment. This disciple's heart truly feels apologetic. Don't say those useless things. Zhenming unexpectedly didn't want to talk to him. Where's this year's flame dawn grass? Don't tell me you still want I to personally go harvest it. Xiaohua smiled and said, this naturally isn't necessary. As he spoke, he took out his storage pouch and handed it over. He said, this disciple has already harvested this flame dawn grass long ago. Senior brother, please take a look. Zhenming slightly nodded. He took the pouch and opened it to take a look. He was somewhat astonished. Your harvesting technique is quite brilliant. Xiaohua replied, this disciple is only of this little use. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come here so eagerly. Good. Zhenming only said one word. He took back the storage pouch and nodded. He said, this year's matter is already done. You should properly take care of the medicinal garden. As he spoke, he seemed to have thought of something. He slapped his forehead and said, that's right, did you take a lot of seeds from the Thunder Flash Hall last year? Xiaohua replied, yes. Does senior brother need something? Naturally, I need to inspect it. Zhenming pointed with his finger and said, open the formation. I want to see where you've planted these spirit grasses. Xiaohua obeyed and opened the formation. He led Zhenming to the place where he planted the spirit grasses. Chapter 1570. Looking at the flat herb garden and some small sprouts, Zhenming nodded slightly, then lectured, how can you grow other spirit herbs in this kind of place? I don't know what you're thinking. Disciple has nothing to do, so I want to see if I can grow other spirit herbs. If I can, that would be great, but if I can't, I'll just waste some seeds. As you wish. Zhenming waved his hand and was about to fly away when Xiaohua stopped him. He patted his storage pouch and took out a few jade bottles and some spirit stones, then handed them over. He said very sincerely, this is disciple's 2 months' worth of provisions last year. Because of disciple, senior brother Zhenming was punished with a year's worth of provisions. Disciple knows that these provisions can't compare to senior brothers, but they are disciple's good intentions, so please accept them. Zhenming obviously didn't expect Xiaohua to give him pills and spirit stones. He thought for a moment, then waved his hand and the items fell into his hand. His pale face showed a trace of a smile, and said, since you have such thoughts, I won't be disrespectful. Seeing Zhenming accept the pills, Xiaohua's heart could be considered to have been put down. He smiled and said, farewell, senior brother Zhenming. Good, we'll meet again next year. Zhenming said as he flew into the air. However, after flying for a few dozen feet, he turned back and reminded, oh right, Xiaohua, I still haven't found the spare token for the Eastern Ridge formation. Your formation isn't very safe, so you have to be careful. Thank you for the reminder, senior brother. Xiao Hua smiled and said, aside from flame dawn grass, there's only flame dawn grass here. It's far inferior to other herb gardens, so who would come here? Besides, disciple is only a qi refining disciple, and my cultivation is shallow. Others won't put me in their eyes. Hee, it's always better to be careful. Unfortunately, this spell formation is only for defensive purposes. It doesn't have any offensive capabilities. Otherwise, I forgot that there are 2 command medallions. Smiling wryly, Zhenming clasped hands and flew out of the eastern ridge, heading back to the lightning flash temple. Seeing that Zhenming had left, Xiao Hua smiled and said, this year's mission is over. I don't have anything to do for the next year. Hee, looks like I have to make a trip to the Myriad Thunder Valley. After that, Xiao Hua tidied up a little, opened the formation, and used the lightning escape technique that he had just learned, and flew in the direction of the 10,000 Thunder Valley. The lightning evasion technique was indeed formidable. It was more than half as fast as Xiao Hua's flight technique. However, this lightning evasion technique consumed a lot of magic power. After flying for a while, Xiao Hua switched back to his original flight technique. Along the way, Xiao Hua was careful. He looked at the map while flying. As long as there were dangerous and forbidden areas, he would stay far away from them, so he didn't encounter any danger. On the contrary, along the way, they encountered a lot of aura refining and foundation building disciples. There was even a grandmaster in the gold core realm. Xiao Hua respectfully stopped for these seniors with profound cultivation bases and politely let them go first. He received quite a lot of smiles. Seeing his master's immortal's cave, Xiao Hua landed. That mountain ape immediately pounced out from the mountain forest. It stretched out its arms and revealed a pair of sharp claws to grab Xiao Hua. Humph, Xiao Hua frowned. He waved his hand and cast a confinement technique. The mountain ape was bound almost without any resistance. It fell to the ground in an instant and let out a roar. Immediately, 2 divine senses came from the helpless immortal's cave and Xiang Yang's immortal's cave respectively. They scanned Xiao Hua's body. Of these 2 divine senses, Xiao Hua was very familiar with one of them. It was eldest senior brother Xiang Yang. He didn't encounter the other one. Since it wasn't helpless, then it should be Zhuo Minghui's. Sure enough, not long after the 2 divine senses were retracted, Xiang Yang flew over with a smile on his face. Seeing that Xiao Hua's cultivation base was already at the peak of the 11th layer of aura refining, he was very happy and said, little junior brother is indeed a genius. I haven't seen you for just a year and you've made great progress. I can see that you're already a cultivator at the 12th layer of aura refining. Xiao Hua wryly smiled, eldest senior brother, I'm suffering in the Eastern Ridge Herb Garden by myself. You didn't even come to see me. Otherwise, I might have already reached foundation establishment by now. What? Xiang Yang was surprised at first, then he laughed out loud and said, you little brat, I was afraid of delaying your cultivation so I didn't dare to go. What's so hard about you? After you reach foundation establishment, I'll ask my wife-in-law to help you find a suitable dual cultivation partner in the Thunder Palace. At that time, let's see if you'll still complain or not. Hearing this, Xiao Hua quickly waved his hand and said, forget it, eldest senior brother. Let me go find one myself. Who knows what kind of person my wife will find? Oh, little junior brother, you don't trust your wife's eyes? Yan Qinglian also flew over. No. Xiao Hua quickly said, I'm just joking with you, eldest senior brother. Hee, little junior brother, your eldest senior brother is right. If you are interested, I should help you find a dual cultivation partner in the mythical Thunder Palace. It can't be. Xiao Hua was stunned and waved his hand even more hurriedly, don't, senior sister, you two don't need to worry about this. Could it be that little junior brother already has a sweetheart? I want to ask, why does the foundation establishment cultivation method start by refining the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the new meridians? Why not continue to refine it in the previous meridians? The previous meridians? Xiang Yang asked curiously. You've already used the previous meridians? If you don't open new meridians, how can you increase your cultivation? Little brother's meaning is, why don't you break through the barrier of the meridians and open up new meridians like the previous meridians of the qi condensation realm, but instead return to the dantian and open up new meridians? Xiao Hua explained. So the qi refining meridians have already been used? How can you open new meridians? Xiang Yang asked back. How do you know there aren't any new meridians? What if there are more? Xiao Hua smiled. There are still other meridians? Xiang Yang was greatly surprised. He had never thought of this kind of question. Hearing it now was very refreshing. He simply didn't know how to answer Xiao Hua. But Yan Qinglian at the side clapped her hands and said, "He, youngest junior martial brother really knows how to think. This question is difficult for your eldest senior martial brother." Xiang Yang also wanted to cry and laugh. He shook his head with all his strength. Youngest junior martial brother's thinking is really outrageous. I have no way to answer. Then, eldest senior martial brother, how do you know that the meridians have been refined to the end? That there won't be any new meridians? Xiao Hua wanted to get to the bottom of this. Youngest junior martial brother, you haven't cultivated to the peak of the 12th layer of the qi refining realm. When you enter the foundation establishment realm, you'll know. The peak of the 12th layer of the qi refining realm is different from the other layers of the qi refining realm. Yan Qinglian looked at Xiang Yang and smiled. Husband, you should tell youngest junior martial brother about your foundation establishment realm. Although it's a bit early to say it now, it's still better than him blindly guessing at the side, right? Chapter 1571. Yes, that's right. Xiang Yang thought for a moment, then nodded and said, this is something that can only be said before you build your foundation. But if you think blindly like this, it's very easy to damage your cultivation. Brother will now say a few simple things, so that you won't make a mistake. The specific things to pay attention to will have to wait until later. Moreover, I used 2 chances to build my foundation, so I should still tell you this lesson first. I'm all ears. Xiao Hua cupped his hands, very much enjoying the feeling of having someone give him pointers. Normally, after cultivating to the peak of each stage of qi refinement, it's the process of reaching perfection. After making up for the gaps in the realm, a barrier will appear between the meridians. At this time, it depends on the amount of true qi. If there's enough, then you can break through the barrier and enter the next level. Otherwise, your cultivation may forever stop at this level. Xiang Yang explained simply, but what about the peak of the 12th layer of qi refinement? It's different from these. When the cultivation method reaches perfection, the true qi will naturally change, and there will be signs of liquefaction. At this time, you have to take a foundation establishment pill. This foundation establishment pill has 2 effects, one is to provide medicinal power to break through to foundation establishment, and the other is to help condense true qi into a liquid state. Then, if you don't take a foundation establishment pill at this time, and use other medicinal pills, or don't use medicinal pills at all? Xiao Hua suddenly asked. This. I don't know. Xiang Yang said awkwardly, that day, when I built my foundation, I encountered the signs of liquefaction. I was ecstatic, so I quickly took a foundation establishment pill. It's just that. Xiang Yang slightly sighed, looked at Yan Qinglian, who had a comforting smile on her face, and said again, it's just that at that time, I was the only one in the Immortals' Cave in Myriad Thunder Valley. Master and Master's wife were nowhere to be found. Although I made some preparations, I only took 2 foundation establishment pills. My cultivation was still lacking, so 2 foundation establishment pills weren't enough to condense all the true qi in my meridians into a liquid state. I barely managed to refine the 2 foundation establishment pills, and after I failed to break through to foundation establishment, I could only look on helplessly as the liquefied true qi gradually reverted back to true qi. Seeing the loneliness on Xiang Yang's face, Xiaohua smiled and said, "Eldest senior brother, then, have you ever regretted it?" Xiaohua had already asked this question before, but now that he asked it again, it must be interesting. Xiang Yang looked at Yan Qinglian, the 2 people's eyes were filled with affection. Indeed, in this place, silence speaks louder than words. After waiting for a short moment, Xiaohua coughed and asked again. "Eldest senior brother, then what happened after that?" After that? After that, I cultivated in seclusion for another 50 years. Just as I was about to lose all hope, the true qi in my meridians suddenly showed signs of liquefying. At that time, I had 10 building foundation dawn in my storage pouch. So, I immediately suppressed the ecstasy in my heart, and refined them one by one. Finally, all the true qi in my meridians was transformed into true elemental energy. Xiang Yang lightly said. "That's strange. Eldest senior brother, you haven't consumed any other medicinal pills in the past 50 years? You didn't take another foundation establishment pill?" Xiaohua asked curiously. In his opinion, since his magic power wasn't enough, he should have just taken some medicine. Who cared about medicinal pills? However, Xiang Yang shook his head. "My Imperial Thunder sect only has medicinal pills for those in the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm. We don't have any medicinal pills for those who fail to build their foundation. Moreover, after Master came back, he only urged me to cultivate according to the cultivation method and didn't allow me to take any medicinal pills. As for why, I don't know." "Oh." Xiaohua slightly nodded. He also knew that with Xiang Yang's honest temperament, he would have absolutely followed the arrangement. He wouldn't have deviated even a little bit. Then, what about the accumulating spirit talisman? Eldest senior brother didn't use it? Xiaohua suddenly thought. Accumulating spirit talisman? Xiang Yang smiled bitterly. He looked at Yan Qinglian and said, "Not only me, but even your senior sister-in-law has never used it. Little junior brother, ordinary cultivators, as long as they have the chance to build their foundation, they would do it without any regard for their lives. Who would be willing to stay in the Qi refining realm?" Yan Qinglian said with a smile, "Only those heaven-sent geniuses who are extremely confident in building their foundation and are willing to take this risk to use the accumulating spirit talisman. As I said just now, the great circle of Qi refining is the natural perfection of the cultivation method. This is also commonly known as the small circle of Qi refining. If you use the accumulating spirit talisman, you can use the power of the talisman to forcefully delay the advancement of your realm and make the small circle of Qi refining even more perfect. That's the true great circle of Qi refining." Xiang Yang said somewhat enviously. It's said that after cultivators at the great circle of Qi refining enter the foundation establishment realm, their magic power is 30% stronger than cultivators of the same realm. The most powerful ones might be 50% stronger. Ah! That much? Xiaohua was slightly astonished. Of course. Otherwise, how could those extremely intelligent people stay in the Qi refining realm? Xiang Yang smacked his lips and said, "That's not all. Qi refining's divine sense is in the nurturing stage. The longer it's nurturing, the more room it has for growth in the future. Think about it, if your magic power is 50% stronger than people of the same realm, and your divine sense is also 50% stronger than people of the same realm, then, how awe-inspiring is that? That's not awe-inspiring." Xiaohua curled his lips in his heart. Although he was currently in the 11th layer of the Qi refining realm, killing someone in the 12th layer of the Qi refining realm wasn't a problem. This wasn't the same concept as people of the same realm. Hehe, little junior brother will enter the Foundation establishment realm in a few years. Master and Master's wife are also in Myriad Thunder Valley. If there are no mishaps, little junior brother should have no problem entering the Foundation establishment realm. Xiang Yang comforted him. You just need to cultivate peacefully and don't think too much. Yes, disciple understands. Xiaohua bowed and said. Soon after, the three of them talked about something and closed their eyes to cultivate. They waited until noon the next day, but Helpless still hadn't returned. Xiaohua wasn't in a hurry. He listened to Helpless talk about the taboos and experiences of qi refining. Listening to it made him scratch his ears and cheeks. Xiaohua had never thought of these things before, but after trying them out, they were indeed useful. Just as they were talking, a crimson summoning talisman flew into the immortal's cave. It was Zhuo Minghui calling them over. Xiaohua and the others arrived at Helpless Immortal's cave. As soon as they saw each other, Zhuo Minghui smiled and handed over a storage pouch. Xiaohua opened it in surprise. When he saw the soul-gathering pills and a lot of spirit stones inside, he couldn't help but feel extremely grateful. He said with a choked voice, Master's wife, I had nothing to do yesterday, so I went to Mythical Thunder Palace to see my senior sisters whom I haven't seen for a long time. And they praised your medicinal herbs very much. After exchanging them for spiritual pills, they also gave you some spirit stones. You should take them. Zhuo Minghui waved her hand as if she really was going to see her senior sisters, and exchanging them for spiritual pills was just a passing matter. Thank you, Master's wife. Xiaohua nodded and put them away. A divine sense swept past. It was Helpless who had returned from outside. Master. Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian stood up and shouted. Xiaohua naturally also stood up. Helpless ignored Xiang Yang and Yan Qinglian. He only looked at Xiaohua and said, How come you're only at the peak of the 11th layer of the qi refining realm? I thought you'd already cultivated to the 12th layer of the qi refining realm. Xiaohua was quite displeased with Helpless' snobbery, and said embarrassedly, Disciple is actually quite stupid. I was barely able to cultivate to the 11th layer of the qi refining realm. Oh. Why are you suddenly saying that? Helpless said angrily, You're the hope of my Myriad Thunder Valley. If you don't build your foundation, I'll crush you to death. Husband. Yan Qinglian said with a frown, If you say that, how will Xiaohua feel? If he doesn't build his foundation, won't he be your disciple? If you don't want him, I'll take him as my disciple. Hee. Helpless, he rubbed his hands and said, I'm just afraid he'll be like Xiang Yang. Soon after, he clapped his hands helplessly and took out a jade box from his storage bag. He tossed it to Xiaohua and asked, Have you seen the secret technique to catalyze your divine sense? Xiaohua took the jade box. He was originally at a loss, but when he heard Helpless' question, he immediately understood what was inside the jade box. He smiled and said, Disciple has just cultivated to the 11th layer of the qi refining realm, so I haven't had time to see the secret technique yet. Then he raised the jade box and said, Is this the rainbow cloud? Rainbow cloud my ass. Helplessly eating a mouthful of spirit fruit, he spat the core on the ground and cursed, This year, my Thunder Palace originally had a rainbow epiphyllum that had just matured, but it was snatched by Zhenyu, that old brat, one step ahead of us, saying that it was for his disciple, Zhenyu Qian. Motherfucker, this guy is really shameless. That disciple named Wang Yunxiao was clearly chosen by me first, and I even marked him with my divine sense. This old bastard actually took Wang Yunxiao away and treated him as his disciple. Unfortunately, they've already registered in the Jade Archive Hall, otherwise Speaking up to here, he looked helplessly at Xiaohua and said, Xiaohua, Wang Yunxiao is already at the 12th layer of the qi refining realm. You have to work harder, you have to build your foundation before him. Oh, even if you can't be the first, you can't fall too far behind. Xiaohua was speechless. He bowed and said, "Disciple understands." Then he said, "If this jade box isn't the rainbow cloud, then what is it?" "Nonsense, if it's not the rainbow cloud, then it's the jade Qilin spirit." Jade Qilin spirit? Xiaohua was puzzled. When he opened the jade box, he saw something similar to a taro inside. It's just that this taro was like jade, and the layers of scales on top were like fish scales. "Master, little junior brother is a rogue cultivator, he doesn't know about this." Xiang Yang reminded. "A rogue cultivator?" Xiaohua said helplessly. He waved his hand and said, "You tell him." "And, little junior brother?" Xiang Yang said with a smile, "It's actually very simple. This jade Qilin spirit is the same as the rainbow cloud, they both have the ability to stimulate divine sense. It's just that the rainbow cloud is too rare, it's not easy to find one. In comparison, this jade Qilin spirit is much more abundant. Many cultivation families use this jade Qilin spirit for their disciples to stimulate divine sense. However, the jade Qilin spirit's effect is much worse than the rainbow cloud." "Oh, so it's like that." Xiaohua put away the jade box and said with a smile, "Thank you, master." "No need to thank me, no need to thank me. If there's nothing else, just go back and cultivate. Come see me when you've built your foundation." Xiaohua waved his hand helplessly. "Disciple has a few questions. After I ask master, I'll immediately return." Xiaohua said with a smile. Quickly ask, quickly ask." "Hee, master, little junior brother is very talented." Xiang Yang was afraid that Xiaohua would get angry, so he quickly said, "Disciple doesn't know how to answer the questions he asked." Is that so? Why don't you tell me?" Xiaohua looked at Xiaohua with surprise. Xiang Yang gave Xiaohua a look, telling him not to say anything. He then repeated Xiaohua's question. Sure enough, Xiaohua immediately jumped up and said, "Damn it, I showed you the foundation establishment cultivation method so you could go to the technique imparting pavilion and find an even higher level cultivation method than this one. You're actually looking for fun here, don't you want to build your foundation?" "It can't be." Xiaohua muttered. Beside him, Zhuo Minghui stopped him again and said, "Husband, this child is very curious. It's good that he can think more. You should talk to him, don't let him go down the wrong path. A disciple is as boring as a rock. I just took in one, and he's like, the mountain ape at the door. How can I be so unlucky?" Xiaohua sighed helplessly. He thought for a moment and said, "Actually, it's nothing. Think about it, before the 12th layer of qi refining, can every cultivator break through to the next realm by taking medicinal pills? Of course not." Xiaohua seemed to have thought of something. "Then, why can't they advance even if they take medicinal pills?" Xiaohua asked helplessly. Xiaohua smiled and said, "It must be the meridians, right? And, you're quite smart." Xiaohua glared at him helplessly. Meridians are the foundation of cultivation. All true qi and true essence are formed by refining the spiritual energy of heaven and earth through the meridians. Everyone's cultivation process is also the process of refining the meridians themselves. If the meridian's ability to refine has already reached its limit, do you think, even if there are more medicinal pills and more spiritual energy, it can still be refined? Disciple understands. It must be that after reaching the peak of the 12th layer of qi refining, the meridian's ability to refine true qi has also reached its peak. It can no longer produce more true qi. If one can't build their foundation in time, then, their magic power can no longer increase. Xiaohua continued. Exactly. Of course, this is the case for your eldest senior brother. What's the use of taking medicinal pills? He just needs to carefully comprehend his realm. If fate allows it, won't he be able to enter the foundation establishment realm? Xiaohua looked helplessly at Xiang Yang and said, "Unfortunately, the difference between the second and the first time is too great. His achievements will always be limited. But master, doesn't the accumulating spirit talisman also force one's realm? Xiaohua asked. You don't know shit. The accumulating spirit talisman doesn't force one's realm. It forces one's true qi to transform into true essence. That was the first time he built his foundation. He only used the accumulating spirit talisman's magic power to prolong the process as much as possible. During this prolonged process, because true essence is together with true qi for a long time, it will undergo a certain mutation. On the other hand, it can refine the meridians that were refined during the qi refining stage again with true essence, increasing the strength of the meridians. After entering the foundation establishment realm, one can have a few % more true essence than others. So that's how it is. Xiaohua finally understood. So there were so many reasons behind this. However, the accumulating spirit talisman is admittedly a good thing. Xiaohua helplessly said, but using the accumulating spirit talisman still has a great risk. Chapter 1572. When using the accumulating spirit talisman, if there's even the slightest bit of carelessness, the liquefied true essence will begin to transform back into true qi. That's not good. All of your previous efforts will be wasted. At best, you'll be beaten back to your original state and have to wait for the second foundation building. At worst, your meridians won't be able to hold too much true qi. Your meridians may break and your Tao will perish. Helplessly speaking, he looked at Xiaohua and said, now that you know, do you still want to use the accumulating spirit talisman? Why not? If others can use it, I can also use it. Xiaohua said without hesitation. Being competitive is the most undesirable thing in cultivation. Helplessly shaking his head. Fine, I'm just being competitive. Xiaohua secretly said, you want me to build my foundation earlier, but you don't want me to be competitive? Helplessly thinking, he said, it's still early. Wait until you reach the 12th layer of qi refining. If your true qi is vigorous, then use it. If it's not, then you should just build your foundation. I'll listen to master's instructions. Xiaohua bowed and said. Soon after, Xiaohua asked a few more questions, especially those about divine sense and the Naiwan Palace. Helplessly answering them all one by one. Don't look at Helplessly's impatient temper and somewhat irritable. In the aspect of cultivation, Helplessly was really amazing. When he talked about some cultivation experiences, Helplessly was very familiar with them. He explained the profound in simple terms and drew inferences about other things from one example and so on. Helplessly, he got so excited that he stopped cultivating. He only talked about the stars in the night sky and welcomed the rising sun. Only then did he stop talking endlessly. Under Xiaohua's worshipful gaze, he helplessly waved his hand and had Xiaohua leave. Xiang Yang and Yan Qingyan also followed him out. Before leaving, Xiang Yang couldn't help but repeatedly exhort, Junior Martial Brother, this foundation establishment is really extremely difficult. You must not let your emotions affect your decisions. If there's anything I can help you with, you must tell me. Xiaohua knew this was Xiang Yang's concern. After thinking for a while, he said with a smile, how about this, if senior brother is willing, how about you protect me while I build my foundation? Great. A smile appeared on Xiang Yang's face. This was exactly what he wanted. However, when a cultivator in the 12th layer of the aura refining realm entered the foundation building realm, it was also the time when they were at their weakest. It was impossible for an ordinary person to be by their side. Although Xiang Yang was Xiaohua's eldest senior martial brother, according to reason, he should be by Xiaohua's side as a protector, but Xiaohua, after all, didn't receive Xiang Yang's guidance since childhood. If he took the initiative to say it, it might not necessarily be somewhat reckless, and it also wouldn't be in line with Xiang Yang's timid nature. Now that Xiaohua mentioned it without the slightest hesitation, it naturally meant that he didn't regard Xiang Yang as an outsider. How could Xiang Yang not be happy? However, junior brother still has a few years to go before he reaches the peak of the 12th layer of the qi refining realm. Right now, we should break through the bottleneck of the 11th layer of the qi refining realm and see if we can generate divine sense. Otherwise, we can only use the jade Kirin fruit to accelerate the process. Xiang Yang said with a smile. Yes, I will listen to eldest senior brother's orders. Xiaohua cupped his hands and said, I'll return to the eastern ridge to cultivate first. If there's anything, I'll inform eldest senior brother. Soon after, Xiaohua leaped into the air and flew towards the eastern mountain range. However, in the time it took to smoke a cigarette, Xiaohua changed his mind. After a slight hesitation, he flew towards the shocking Thunder Palace. Along the way, Xiaohua saw that there was no one around. He used the lightning escape technique and arrived in front of the Yanlei Palace in just a few hours. At this time, the Yanlei Palace was different from the last time. Although it was floating in the clouds, there was a long ladder that snaked downwards from the entrance of the Yanlei Palace. Inside the clouds, the Yanlei Palace actually emitted a faint lightning glow, causing the surroundings to flicker. Is today the time to impart the technique? Xiaohua thought as his figure landed on the ladder. The ladder was also mysterious. Just as Xiaohua's figure landed and was about to lift his leg to walk up, the ladder actually moved up by itself. Xiaohua didn't need to move at all. His figure slowly walked towards the entrance of the Yanlei Palace. This is really interesting. Xiaohua thought to himself. When he arrived at the entrance of the Yanlei Palace, it was a tall palace that looked no different from the Shualei Palace. Just as Xiaohua was about to enter, an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator came out of the palace. He looked at Xiaohua up and down, then used his divine sense to scan him. He frowned and scolded, "Where is your waste token? Why did you only come now? The technique imparting disciple has already been preaching for several hours. I'm afraid it's nearing the end. How can you step into the foundation establishment realm with this kind of slack?" Xiaohua smiled apologetically, took out his token and said, "Senior, please know that disciple's errand job is in the eastern mountain range. It's very far from here. Yesterday, I couldn't stay in the shocking Thunder Palace, so I came late today." When the cultivator heard that Xiaohua was in the eastern mountain range, his face slightly changed. He took the token, scanned it with his divine sense, and handed it back. "Quickly go in. The East Side Palace is preaching about the art of medicine. It's useful for you. You can go and listen. The West Side Palace is preaching about the foundation of techniques. It's also useful for new disciples like you." "Yes, disciple understands. Thank you for the reminder, senior." Xiaohua bowed and entered the Yanlei Palace. Xiaohua curiously looked at the main hall. The main hall of the evolved Thunder Palace seemed to be different from the Bright Thunder Palace and the Spring Thunder Palace. The main hall wasn't big, it was square-shaped, and in the middle, there was a square pillar standing from top to bottom. The four sides of the main hall, as well as the roof above, and the ground below, were all covered with many runes. These runes were engraved with intelligence, and seemed to have a profound meaning. On the square pillar, there were countless tiny lightning threads flashing. These countless lightning threads formed different runes that moved around the entire pillar in a very orderly manner. This pillar looks a lot like a jade slip. Thinking about this, Xiaohua released his perception and used his divine sense to read the jade slip to step into the pillar. Boom! When Xiaohua's perception entered the pillar, a rumbling sound came from the jade slip. Xiaohua didn't feel like he was looking at the jade slip. Instead, he felt the same as when he entered the illusion array. After a rumbling sound, a towering mountain range appeared in front of Xiaohua's eyes. This mountain range was completely crimson. This is... Before Xiao Hua could think of anything else, a tall and thin cultivator with white hair and beard, wearing a red Taoist robe, descended from the sky and landed on the Crimson Mountain range. Xiao Hua couldn't see through that cultivator's cultivation. Who is this? Following Xiao Hua's puzzlement, that cultivator patted his hand and took out a bead that was similar to the thunder-devouring bead from his storage pouch. Ah! Thunder-devouring bead? Xiao Hua was shocked. However, when he looked carefully, this thunder-devouring bead was even smaller than the one he had. Moreover, there were no lightning sparks around the bead. However, Xiao Hua could clearly see that there were countless lightning sparks lingering inside the small bead. Immediately after, the cultivator threw the thunder-devouring bead into the air and then grabbed it with his hand. As the cultivator slowly raised his hand, a large ball of lightning appeared from the thunder-devouring bead. As the cultivator raised his hand, the large ball of lightning flew into the air. Immediately after, the cultivator kept making hand seals. Every hand seal seemed to be played down, but wherever the hand seals were cast, a hurricane would appear in the air. Moreover, as the hand seals were cast, the lightning sparks emitted a dazzling brilliance. After a while, the cultivator opened his mouth and spat out a light purple brilliance into the lightning sparks. Suddenly, the lightning sparks emitted an extremely bright brilliance and gradually expanded. When it was about 100 feet wide, the cultivator pointed his finger and the lightning sparks slowly fell and sank into the Crimson Mountain range. The cultivator's figure also disappeared along with the lightning sparks. Ancestor Qianyun. Xiao Hua instantly understood that this cultivator was the founder of the Imperial Thunder sect, Qianyun. Sure enough, a moment later, a purple light shone from under the mountain range and spread in all directions like a ring. Ancestor Qianyun's figure suddenly appeared from the mountain range and kept making hand seals. The brilliance flashed continuously in the mountain range. As the brilliance went away, heavy dark clouds pressed down from the sky and countless thin lightning sparks fell below the brilliance. Ancestor Qianyun's figure was like a god. Damn it, Ancestor is really awe-inspiring. Xiao Hua secretly said. Immediately after, Xiao Hua's eyes darkened again. When he could see clearly again, there were countless disciples on the mountain range and countless tall and majestic palaces. It was the current appearance of the Imperial Thunder sect. Just when Xiao Hua didn't know how to retreat, the image of Ancestor Qianyun appeared in front of him again. Greetings, Ancestor. Xiao Hua didn't dare to neglect and hurriedly bowed. Ancestor Qianyun ignored him and just flicked his sleeve. Xiao Hua's figure suddenly rose up and fell into the palace in the clouds in midair. Ah! Isn't this the Yanlei Palace? Xiao Hua was stunned, but when he was in a daze, he saw a tall and thin cultivator standing in front of the pillar of the Yanlei Palace. He looked very lost. Damn! Seeing the tall and thin figure, Xiao Hua's heart moved. This seems to be, before he could even think about it, his figure merged with the tall and skinny figure. Then, Xiao Hua's eyes shook slightly. When he opened his eyes, he had already retracted his perception. In front of him was still that pillar of lightning with restrained light. Xiao Hua shook his head. He really couldn't distinguish whether he was in an illusion or in reality. He wanted to bite his finger to distinguish, but he felt that it was a bit embarrassing. At this moment, the door to the east side hall opened, and an early foundation establishment cultivator walked out. He looked up at Xiao Hua, who was standing in front of a pillar. His gaze swept over him, and without stopping, he walked into the inner hall. Behind that cultivator, dozens of aura refining disciples rushed out. These disciples were of different ages and cultivation levels, ranging from the 4th layer to the 12th layer of aura refining. Huh? Xiao Hua. A very familiar voice sounded. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.